I think. One second. All right. Yeah. So now we go to YouTube. I'll get you the. I'm sorry. It is the Lightning Hack Sprint, and we're sprinting away here. Let's see. Max, are you around? Can you? Nope. Ah, okay. Here it is. Oh, shit. Wrong time. Current viewers. Edit. Man, this is stream viewer activity. I think I'm going to have to. All right, so I've got the YouTube link. Hi, folks. Sorry for the late.
These days, people are wondering how.
Post this in the Mattermost, and then we'll get going. One second. Copy link, and
okay, sorry, I had some issues, but I'm back now.
We're back. All right, and we're live, Max. Guess what? You've come back to a live stream. How good's that?
Oh,
I'm
fantastic.
I'm just trying to post the actual thing, but because I'm using a MacBook, an iPad toy machine, it's a bit tricky. But we are back. Here we are. We've finally done it. We're live on the World Crypto Network, which is also very, very exciting. We've got many viewers, and right now we have the second Lightning Hack Sprint going on, folks. And with us, we've got the most talented people from around the world that are beavering away, building this amazing system that is the layer 2 of the Lightning of Bitcoin. And many people are talking about layer 2s on all sorts of blockchains at the moment. And of course, Bitcoin is far ahead of them all with this amazing technology. And really, once you've used it, you start to understand how amazing it is and what the future looks like. Max, I'd like to bring you on board now. How have you been, my friend? Max Hillebrand from Wasabi Wallet.
Hey all, nice being back on the WCN. It's been a while, but I've been watching the shows and trying to keep up. Yes, it's been going quite well. Keeping on building Lightning Network magic, especially Wasabi Wallet CoinJoin magic. There's just so much to build, and we cannot do any much faster. So let's keep going.
Yeah, how's that all looking at Wasabi? What's the latest?
Oh well, the one of the latest releases introduced multi-wallet support, which was quite big, and now this allows a very rudimentary function of mixing into another wallet, like for example directly into your hardware wallet, or potentially directly into your Lightning Network wallet, so that you can open your channels with CoinJoin Bitcoin. And even further than that, we're focusing right now mostly on research of a protocol called Wasabi, the art of finding beautiful things in broken things. And this will hopefully fix some of the issues that we have with CoinJoin and enable to make truly private payments inside a CoinJoin. Still a bunch of open questions. The crypto magic is somewhat getting there. But yeah, heavily on the research side here, we have again a lot to build. Still on layer 1, because the more powerful layer 1 is, the more exponentially powerful the higher layers, layer 2 and layer 3, will be.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that, and it's amazing work that you've been doing for a very long time with Wasabi. I mean, one of the strongest parts of Bitcoin and one of the weakest parts is the need. The strong part is the need for fungibility and that these coins that people get, because it only takes a matter of time until one day we'll get the state saying, hey, anyone that's accepting Bitcoin, you have to analyze your own tainted coins that you might get. And you'll be like, oh, how can I possibly do that? There's like 16 Satoshis here from some darknet transaction 3 transactions ago. Am I meant to like reject this? I don't even know who sent it to me. It was a robot, and I, like, it's just a ridiculous thing. But if we can have privacy and fungibility in this network a lot stronger, then this is just, well, we can't do any, technically we can't do anything about it. And so this is why we need this. And so well done for continued work on that.
Yeah, absolutely, and this goes very well hand to hand together with second layer technology, right? Because Lightning Network, the receiver does not know who the sender was, because it was an onion routed payment through the network. So that is a huge advantage already. And the more we see scalability solutions also being privacy solutions, and by the way, that's one of the goals with Wasabi, to have private transaction batching inside a CoinJoin, which is very efficient in block space, saves fees and stuff. So the more we have scalability solutions that also provide privacy, the more we have just fuck you, we're going to use privacy tech and come and take it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the interesting thing about it all is that I have, of course, with Voltorio, I've been in touch with many banks along the time in my Bitcoin career, and one of the most interesting conversations that I've had continuously is that, well, we can't do much with Bitcoin because it's too public. It's not private enough. And it's like, oh, okay. Oh, that's interesting. Because you'd think they'd want to be, as open as possible, but they want to do all the KYC, but not tell anyone who they are or what they're doing with their money. And they also don't want to show how fractionally reserved they are. But nevertheless, let's bring on our first guest. Here we are, of course, at the Lightning Hack event, and we've had lots of hackers hacking away. Who have we got here? We've got Stephen from Zelgada. How are you going, Stephen?
Yeah, doing very well.
Yeah, so
great.
Tell us about your project, Zapread. Is that how you...
That's right, Zapread. Yes. So the vision, I guess, with this is to kind of build a publishing platform, a social media platform, which leverages micropayments to create an economy, basically, and market forces, instead of like you see today, where everything is advertising driven, data, personal data being sold from companies, and that's where the value is in a lot of publishing right now, like social media and those kind of things. So I wanted to see if we can build a platform, and it's not that original of an idea, but it is something that I want to do, which is based on Bitcoin and Lightning, because that's something we can do now with micropayments. So the idea here in the website is...
Hey, Stephen, can I just interrupt you for a second? You've got a lot of popping on your microphone. It seems to be popping in and out. Are you able to maybe switch to your computer laptop or laptop mic? Is that possible?
No, that one is actually, I've been having problems with it.
Okay.
Sorry.
We'll see how we go. It just sort of clips a lot. But let's keep going. If you haven't got
Sorry
another
about
option, that's all right.
Yeah.
All good.
So I'll try to share my screen here and show you kind of the website and just there we go. The entire screen here. Okay, so you should see what I see. Yeah, so the website is it's Zapread.com, and it's kind of like a social media website where users can post whatever they want, content, so it's security discussions, etc. And so you can create an account, log in, and with the focus for the hackathon here is really this kind of use another service to log in aspect. And there's nothing here that's actually a decentralized system to log in. So you can have your own account or whatever. But then I recently found something very interesting that people were talking about on Zapread. And that's, I'll try to show this. And I thought this was very cool, and this is using Lightning to actually log in. So this is a website, LN Markets, that they talk about. And so this standard LN URL I thought was very cool. So you get your Lightning wallet, and you get a login to authenticate to the website, and it uses that decentralized. So no emails, no identity required. And so I want to make that easy to do for websites. So selfishly for my website, but also I want to make it open source. So my website itself is open source. So everything that runs my website is available on GitHub. But I also want to make that even more available. And so that's why I've been trying to propose people with this hackathon to build a middleware that allows websites which use the same technology that I'm using to kind of insert that into the website. And there's over 1 million websites which do that. So that's kind of my motivation there.
Very cool.
Yeah, so it's really cool. The thing I think that's really cool about all of this is there are many users, and it's free to join, right? So users will come in, they'll join, and they'll start talking, discussing things, or creating their own content, and then they earn their first Bitcoin on with Zapread. So it's an onboarding as well. So people will come, the community likes what they're saying, or has some kind of support to show. They can show it with even a few Satoshi over a Lightning payment, and that will go to that user, and that's their first Bitcoin, and they're onboarded now. So they're going to go and they're going to learn about all the wallets out there. They're going to start getting into the ecosystem, and they're going to start spending it as well back on this website and other websites. So that's the main motivation here, is just to grow the whole Bitcoin community through the Lightning Network and so on. And hopefully, if we can make this easier for other websites to adopt, like LN auth URL, that'd be great. More wallets are starting to support that, etc.
Yeah, I really love.
That's
First of
very
all,
interesting.
Oh, sorry, Max. You go for a minute.
A question that I had here is, right, that the Lightning Network itself is a network, and it has a network effect. So the question would be, if you're friends on Zapread, like, do you have a channel between your friends, or maybe between group members, so that you are even more connected than just sharing the information and liking and retweeting stuff, but you even have a Lightning channel to your peer, to your friend?
Yes, that's a great idea, and yes, that's kind of happening as well. So to kind of transact, people, especially with some of the new features coming up on the Lightning Network, to onboard people, because of course opening a channel is one of the I guess keys to get on the Lightning Network, right? So that's one of the things I could do. I could say, you've earned your first Bitcoin on Zapread, and I can open a channel to your network to kind of push your wallet to have the first incoming balance on chain, things like that, but also between people as well. So people can share their Lightning, nodes, and they can connect to one another, and maybe even like we can look to automate that in the future, right? So exactly, help people get onboarded.
I really love it. So let's take the users down the story of what Zapread is. So it's kind of I mean, from the screen grab right there, it's a like a Reddit style link posting thing, and then comment and upvote, downvote style site. Now, how do payments come in? Oh, and we've got Rene here as well, by the way. I'm not sure if his microphone is working. Rene Picard is, of course, a wonderful member of this whole community and a solid developer and educator. So it's great to see him here. Hopefully he can get his microphone sorted out. But Stephen, so how does the Lightning Network fit in? When I want to upvote something, or is it like a spam protection mechanism?
Yeah, so one of the tenets of the website is really game theory. So a lot of the interactions and incentives are based on financial interactions. So you can give money to upvote something, which is money being in the form of Satoshi. So, and then there's also user reputations and so on, which kind of balance what score that gives you. But you can also pay to downvote something. And so the idea there is that users can use financial incentives to reward behavior which is acceptable to their community on Zapread. So there are also groups as well. So then when money is transacted through Lightning Payments, that is then, so a portion of that goes directly to the content creator or the commenters or whatever, and then a portion of that goes to the community pool to encourage others as well. So for example, downvoting something, where does that money go to? Well, that money is actually balanced out and goes to for every day there's payouts. It goes to the top performing content. So it's kind of like a reward saying like, you shared your content on the platform, and then some other people are spamming it. And so we got rid of the spamming stuff. And by the way, we're going to compensate your good content by what we took away from the spamming stuff as well. So yeah, so part of it, yes, spam control and that kind of thing as well. But then also, financial incentives to produce content that other people want to see. Oh, I can't hear you. Sorry, you might be muted or.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I really love the idea of spam control through payments. Even tiny payments do well. Rene, is that your mic?
Can you hear me now?
It's extremely distorted, but I can hear you. Now I can't hear you. No, now it's totally dead.
So this is the only way you can hear me, but it's extremely distorted.
Oh, it's better now. It's better now. It's better now. It was just the initial. Maybe it had like auto balance in it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Didn't want to interrupt this amazing conversation with Stephen.
Yeah. So you were an early adopter of this, and tell us what your experience is like.
On Zapread? Well, in the beginning, I could download money from Zapread that I didn't have, but I filed a bug report and I got rewarded with 100 Satoshis or something. I think there is still the post on Zapread where I filed the bug report.
Oh, very nice. Very nice.
So yeah, that was awesome. That was great, yes. I really enjoyed that. I'm sure Stephen remembers.
Yeah.
That's the other thing is, it's one of those things where it's not ready, and I feel like this is kind of those things which is, it kind of runs through the blood of the Lightning Network is we're going to do it and we're going to like go as we do it, we're going to learn, we're going to like build it as we go. And that's kind of the same approach I'm using. So there are a lot of features still that need to be implemented and improved. And everything like that. And so as I put it out early, get people to start finding the bugs for me and so on. And we improve it as we go. So Rene, he already showed things that needed to be fixed very early on, which hopefully I fixed them all. But, getting users to come in and start using it just keeps.
Oh, we've lost Stephen. Stephen's network is slowing down. Yeah, one thing I really love is the notion of these social networks allowing us to spread the technology to people that aren't actually, hardcore crypto enthusiasts. Of course, they'll be the first ones to jump on this, but one question I have for you, Stephen, is there a way to be able to let some noob who's like just wanting to use the service, doesn't really know anything about Lightning, doesn't have a channel open, nothing, to be able to come in and open their first channel? Because it was those aha moments with normal Bitcoin, which was on chain, but it was fantastic. It was like, oh, I don't get it, and you send them a Bitcoin, and it was like, oh, I get it. And it was this sort of great aha moments every time. Is this something on the roadmap where a total no coiner can jump in and start getting their first sats?
That's the objective here, yeah. So onboarding people, really. And I've had a few people where they got their first Bitcoin on Zapread, and they've never had any Bitcoin before, not even just not Lightning, but no Bitcoin. Wow. And so this one guy, he got on there and he got really excited about this, and he's a security researcher too. So he started finding all these security things to patch up on the website. But the cool thing is he started writing bots. And in fact, he even built an application, which is a kind of it's a clone of Satoshi's Place, if you've seen that one, a text-based one, and it uses Zapread servers on the back end to manage all of the Lightning payment. So he figured out how to do this, and so I can see a lot of ideas kind of spurting up as we move forward as well. So so whenever someone uses his website, it sends him a payment on Zapread, which is kind of cool.
That's really cool. Wow. So is that using an open API?
Yeah, so I'm building an API on this website where people can connect in using so a REST-based API. There's a Swagger. It's not complete. I'm still moving things onto it. And there's also a WebSocket API where you can get real-time kind of streams of what's going on when you're earning money, and also to send money and so on. So that, I mean, the second challenge I kind of have is this concept of offline Lightning payments, which I think is where I'd like to go. So kind of removing the need for having, say, my server as a central point, but further decentralizing all of this. So it's on the roadmap. So we want to build something good and then make it better later.
Wow. Yeah, the offline Lightning Network payments are really, really kind of cool. I saw a demo of it using an ATM where they would just sign a message, and that message would then show the transaction. It was really, really interesting. So by the way, I love the LNURL sign-in stuff. I think that's really, really interesting, and we're definitely looking at implementing something like that on Vaultoro as well, because it's I'm just so over the whole username and password stuff. That should have been eradicated a long time ago. Humans are terrible password creators, and it's just horrible. It's just a horrible system, and I don't know why we haven't moved forward with removing that technology long before Bitcoin. I really don't.
Yeah. And it's, to me, if we can make that I'm not the author of that. I haven't been involved in any of it. I'd like bring it in and spread it. So if we can get more people to kind of reward, websites that say, oh, you have a Lightning wallet, you can use that Lightning wallet and here and here and here and here. Like it's like an incentive to get that Lightning wallet. Like it's all onboarding. Yeah. And I mean, the one other thing I didn't mention. So I mean, I use LND as the back end of mine, and so I was using it very early on the mainnet, and so I've been with it for a long time. So I was looking at just how many Lightning transactions that I've been doing, and the other day it was something like over 130,000 transactions that have happened on it. And I just think about, if I was to do that on chain, how much. Like that would be like over 50 blocks of Bitcoin of transactions, right? And so in terms of scaling, it's just crazy. And the website pays the fees, right? So for the Lightning routing fees, so people don't have to pay. Like the kind of thing, it makes it so usable, and so when people can get just a few satoshis and stuff, and it's like fast, and you don't have to wait for block confirmations and stuff like that, like it really shows the power of the scaling and the ease of use, and we need to just keep making that better.
You have 130,000 Lightning transactions already processed with Zapread.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
So,
That's so good.
some people use the website not only for posting content and voting, I guess.
Oh, yeah. There's like people, like I said, there are people like they're building like API bots, and they're using it for all kinds of stuff. And well, even just on the site, people
there's
depositing
certainly
and
something else going on there.
Amazing. And this is
Well,
this is the beauty of these open protocols. That, you know, you never even dream of what you're actually building and what it gets used for in the end. Oh, I think we keep losing Stephen. But yeah, so what's your take on Zapread, Renee?
I love it. It's I mean, there's too many great websites anyway, right? I mean, it's hard enough to follow up with Reddit, and it's to some degree similar. But I was an early user. I think I, at some point in time, when I moved to Norway, stopped my behavior of like spending too much time on social media. So I kind of also lost track of Zapread. But until then, I loved it. It's a great website.
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely going to jump on. That's for sure. Stephen, you're back.
Yes, I don't know why my internet, it's raining here, so I don't know if that's affecting my internet, but yeah.
The internet's got COVID. Everything's got COVID.
Everything does.
So tell us what have you got on the roadmap ahead? Because this is just really an exciting project. I really, really love it.
So a lot of the things I want to do, I want to improve privacy as one thing, and a decentralized authorization is one way, because if you don't need an email address or anything like that to sign up, I think that's great. I also want to look at like encrypted messaging between people. There's a chat function on board, for example, but I'd like to work on improving the security of that. And it'd be really cool if I can leverage a Lightning Network for that as well. That'd be, you know, because you could do chat over Lightning Network. So I'd like to look into that. And really, like in the last while, I found that I just been doing a lot of like what I call it, just like, you know, basic, you know, foundations, so stuff like just the front end stuff, making it look better. I think I'd like a lot of like look for help to get people to help out on that kind of stuff. It's just the, you know, the stuff that you have to do to get the cool stuff underneath to work and get people on it. And so it's all open source. I have a GitHub. Anyone's welcome to go and pick it up and get started on it. So I welcome contributions, and I have some people, a lot of people just, you know, submit issues on the issue tracker. But yeah, I don't know where it's going to go yet, but my focus is really to make it something that's for the community.
Fantastic. Max, do you have any comments or questions?
Yeah, this really does sound very, very interesting. A general question back to the login page. There is a way to use the Lightning Network key infrastructure as a login. If I remember correctly, Satoshi's Games has such a login model. Have you looked into this and how this might work?
Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm doing right now, is using your wallet to log in. So, I mean, I could just take in like, okay, make one Satoshi payment. I've seen that before too. I think there's the browser extension wallet Jewel that has a login capability. So I think there are a lot of different standards out there that support this. And what I want to do is just implement a library, an open source library that, you know, one of the most popular platforms on the internet, the one that I use as well, is able to just like pick that library up. It's open source. I can just like start using it on my website. And so, yeah, that's exactly what I want to do. I want that login to be using this. That's one standard I saw, and it seems to be a pretty good one that includes other like withdrawal standards and stuff like that. So So that's where I'd like to hack away a bit and see if we can get that library built and add that feature to Zapread.
Yeah, excellent. Unfortunately, people are complaining in the chat about your mic. But it is what it is. It's the lightning hack sprint, guys. You know, this is what hackathons are all about: getting things happening and putting it together, making it work, even if you can't get it to work 100%. So. Renee, what have you been working on, man? What have you been doing down there in Norway? Are you still working, developing away on the Lightning Network?
Yeah. So, I mean, the reason why I went to Norway is because I wanted to work full-time on the Lightning Network, and that's actually what I'm doing. Though it's a little bit more research-oriented than the engineering teams over at Lightning Labs or Blockstream. I always try to poke them and say, hey, we have these results, you should really implement this. And then the answer is like, yeah, it's interesting results, but you know it, if you don't implement it, we don't do it, because everybody has so many ideas. So I thought, I was last week actually doing an experiment where I tried to figure out how we could evaluate what pathfinding techniques on the Lightning Network are good and which ones are not so good. And part of the scientific work was to come up with methods of evaluating when is a pathfinding algorithm good, right? So for example, you might think, well, it should find a path all the time. And I mean, yes, that's a good criterion, but there was a paper recently called Hash Relay, and they always find the path, but they have so much message communication overhead that it scales worse than a blockchain.
Wow.
Right? So we can't use that, right? I mean, then we can stay with on-chain transactions. So I thought, yeah, we should keep track of how much messages on the network are being sent around. And then, of course, people like privacy, right? When we want to find a path, every time, like, for example, nowadays, when you make a payment on the Lightning Network, you send out an onion, and when the onion fails, you actually learn something about channel balances somewhere on the Lightning Network. And then you try another path, and then it fails again, and you learn something again, right? So every time a payment fails, you learn a lot of how people have their funds, because, you know, the other party has all the Bitcoin on their side, right?
Yeah.
So what I did is I started measuring these things for the pathfinding algorithms that we know. How often do they find a path? How much communication on the network takes place? And how much information is leaked? And in the beginning, I thought this would be a trade-off, right? So you would probably be more successful if you leak more information.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right, and the more information you leak, of course, the more communication you have. So I tried this out, and I had this amazing result, which I completely did not expect, that with JIT routing, actually it's best in all scenarios. It leaks the least amount of information, it has the least network communication, and it has the highest routing success rate. I was like, wow, this is great. We really need JIT routing. But before I thought it's a nice idea, and some people had some objections to it. But with this, I was like, wow, we really need this.
Let's bring it back a bit. What is JIT routing?
So JIT routing works the following. When I receive an HTLC with a payment, and I'm supposed to forward it to you, Josh, but our channel is not in my favor to forward the package because you have all the money on your side, right? The initial sender of the payment couldn't know that, but I know that when I want to forward the payment. What a Lightning node usually would do at this moment is it would send back an error to the originator of the package and say, hey, try another route.
Right.
But what JIT routing does is I don't send this error message, but I try to rebalance my channels by moving some funds that I have on another channel in a circular onion through you back to me. And with that just in time, that is what JIT stands for, I provided myself enough liquidity to be able to forward the payment.
Interesting.
Right?
And
so it's very obvious that JIT routing has at least the same success rate as the regular routing.
With far less messages.
Well, the thing is, every time you probe, you have to try another channel. And then this could fail again, you try another channel. Whereas when I'm locally trying to rebalance, I might know a little bit better what my local neighborhood looks like. And what I did when I proposed JIT routing 1 year ago is that I said, well, maybe we could include a little bit of communication between nodes. Maybe I could ask all my channel partners, what do your channels look like? So if you share your channel balance, I get a pretty decent view on my local neighborhood, and then I could find a circular payment that certainly works. Right, and this, of course, is a lot of information that is being shared with me, and that's a lot of network communication that's taking place at my place. But once that is done, I have a really high likelihood that I'm able to rebalance my channel and forward the payment. So I simulated this with thousands of payments in a simulated network. And it turns out overall, it's less information that is being leaked and it's less network communication that is taking place, even though at the moment where I'm doing this rebalancing, it's quite a lot of communication taking place. But on average, it doesn't happen that often. So that is great. So
and one of the really interesting things is that I found so fascinating when Renee told about me is that this is atomic, right? So, or you can make it atomic rather.
You can make it atomic.
Yes, that if my node receives this routing transaction, and I do the rebalancing, I can do the rebalancing in such a way that the rebalance itself will only succeed if the main transaction also succeeds, right? So this is quite nice because then my balances only shift if this is actually a true routing transaction that goes through.
Yes, that is true, though that proposal is a little bit more tricky because you have to pay attention with the CLTV deltas. I don't go into the details, but I'm pretty sure, Max, you will understand this. But there's another thing, Max, that I'm pretty sure I haven't told you so far, and you would be really keen about this. It turns out that JIT routing is actually a way to mitigate probing attacks on the Lightning Network. So we recently published a paper together with Sergei Tikmarov from the University of Luxembourg, where we tried to reveal channel balances of other nodes by just sending out fake payments and see what the error messages are like. When everybody would support JIT routing, those fake payments would not give back any errors anymore. Because whenever a channel doesn't have enough balance, it would rebalance its channel and then be able to forward the payment. Right? So in that sense, you cannot spy on other nodes anymore if everybody would support JIT routing, which is another really great advantage of this routing algorithm.
Now, just for those that don't know at home, routing isn't actually specified in any of the bolts, right? It's kind of voluntary, is that correct? And people can choose their routing methods, or is it now becoming a standard amongst the different implementations?
So let me be a little bit more clear on the terminology. I think you mean the right thing, but I would use different words for it.
Okay.
Routing is specified as onion routing in the bolts. And we use a mechanism of a chain of HCLCs to make it atomic. So that is specified. What is not specified is the path finding component. Which path are we choosing?
I see,
right?
I see. And this has been a lot of the work that you've been doing.
That's a lot of work that I've been doing because, there is a lot of criticism about the Lightning Network coming from so-called Bcachers. And they say this is an unsolved problem, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, you know what? It's a tricky problem, but I don't think it's completely unsolved or unsolvable. I mean, they make claims that it's computationally heavy until the end of the day. So I made myself the goal to solve this as a PhD thesis, basically. And this is what my research is about. But what I'm doing on the hex sprint now is the following. After I had this observation that JIT routing is really much stronger than I assumed before, I said we really need this now. And as I discussed before, it would be really great if nodes could ask their neighbors about their channels. So what we're doing right now is we're creating a C-Lightning plugin that we can send a gossip message to our neighbors and say, hey, I want to forward a payment of that size. Please give me all the channels back on which you would be able to forward this payment.
Renee, I'm not sure if it's my connection or if it's, I think it's probably me because I'm just having a look at the live stream and you seem to be pretty crystal clear. Just some of the voice was breaking up.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know.
No,
okay,
no,
so I can repeat it maybe.
Yeah.
So what we're doing now is we're creating this C Lightning plugin, and that's apparently pretty simple to do, that you can send a message to your neighboring nodes and ask them about all their payment channels. So let's assume I'm in the situation that I'm supposed to send, let's say, 5 millibitcoins to you, and I don't have enough balance. I need to do rebalancing. Then I can ask my other channels on which of their channels they would be willing to forward 5 millibitcoins for me.
Gotcha.
Right? And then they can return this. I can collect this information and I can try to find a circular payment that goes back to you. You could ask your friends, hey, on which channels are you willing to forward 5 millibitcoins to me? And maybe with this information already, I can find a circular path that I can use for rebalancing. I do this, and this is a huge step towards having an efficient JIT routing. There's like a communication protocol of revealing the channel balance of my neighbors, which is the information that can be easily probed anyway, right? And
so, and this is basically like probing on a local circular route. But
it's yeah, but without the probing. Like if I probe on my own, it takes a lot of network requests because I probe back and forth. I have to try, and then it fails, and I try another amount. Now what I do is basically I send a message to you, Max, and say, Max, I want to forward 5 millibitcoins. Please give me all channels on which you are willing to do this. And the reason why I'm saying willing to do this is for JIT routing, we propose to make the circular onion free of fees. And I have other research already published where I'm showing a criteria under which you should forward a payment or under which you should also rebalance your channels, right? So you can apply this criteria locally and you can decide, hey, on these 3 channels, I would be willing to do this. And then if I find like in my local neighborhood enough nodes who have channels that do this, it's actually beneficial for everybody to do this rebalancing, and that's how we do it without fees.
Oh, that's interesting that it's without fees.
Well, that's the ultimate goal, right? I mean, that's a different plugin we need to write. So because I mean, currently the onions, they have to have fees and nodes otherwise wouldn't forward them, right? So we need to change the transport layer 2 to support this fee-free thing. So our agenda that we're trying to do on this weekend is 2 parts. The first part is enable the communication protocol of asking my peers, hey, can you please give me information about your channels on which you want to forward a payment or on which you want to have an incoming payment. And that's a communication protocol and an extension of Bolt 7 anyway, right? In Bolt 7, we have all these query messages, right? Where you like query some like announcement messages and you get the reply about like what is the capacity of the channel, what are the fees. So here we have another query of say, hey, query the channel balances, and then you get a reply. So this is something that we're speccing out right now and that we're writing a C Lightning plugin as a proof of concept. Once we have that, we need to extend the Lightning Network protocol to be able to do circular fee-free rebalance onions, where of course we cannot abuse them for other payments, right? Everybody has to agree that this is a circular payment, and then that's why they drop the fees, right? So this needs a little bit more of a cryptographic and communication protocol, but that's different research. But people who are good on cryptography like you, Max, you could come up with that. I would be happy.
well, maybe. Let's see. But I'm still not sure why. Where's the difference that these circular routes should be free compared to regular payment routes?
So if you look at my first research paper that I published on network rebalancing in general, it turns out that for the overall payment success rate on the Lightning Network, it would be great if every node proactively already would rebalance their channels to a certain statistical criteria. And what I can say so far is, to make it easy, it's not that your funds have to be 50-50 necessarily. It could be 80-20, right? But every node locally can decide what this criteria is, and every node locally can try to fulfill this criteria. And then I simulated this. And it turns out if every node tries to rebalance their channels according to this criteria, the amount of fees that they pay is the same that they earn from others who rebalance their channels. So overall, this rebalancing thing is like a zero-sum game in fees. However, the problem is if there's fees involved, I could just lie back and say I wait for everybody else to rebalance and I collect the fees and they pay the fees. right? So in order to solve this economical problem of like tragedy of the commons, you just drop the fees because overall they wouldn't emerge anyway. And this increases the overall routability or the overall ability to forward payments on the Lightning Network.
Fascinating.
I can send you the paper link. You can read it up. I mean, we did all the research.
And these models that you fire off, Renee, how do they work? How do you model something like that? You take a bunch of payments that have already happened and see how they would route, or how does that work? You just
so that is the tricky part, and obviously also a reason for like criticism of my research. Obviously, I don't know who pays whom on the Lightning Network, and I don't have a data set that reflects this. I mean, there is a data set that is being used in research quite a lot, which is a Ripple data set. And of course, we could use this as a like rough idea. But I assume certain probability distributions of how payments take place and say, under these conditions, you can measure something, right? And of course, the effect in reality could be a little bit different because the assumptions are a little bit different. But then, of course, you can also play around with these assumptions and say, hey, even if you change the assumptions, the overall result is still, it's better to do that, right? And this is what we do in research. But of course, the real assumptions, we don't know them. But I mean, this is how research works very often.
So being in the research side, how far away do you see when something goes from research to practical use? What do you see in terms of the timeline of that? I know it's research, so it's kind of hard to know if it even works. But what's your dream timeline for a research alpha, beta sort of injecting it into the actual system?
So a huge problem that I currently see is that many researchers who do research on the Lightning Network have actually very little idea of how the Lightning Network protocol currently works. So they sometimes in their research make more assumptions than I do. And these assumptions would actually trigger severe protocol changes, right? And of course, I mean, when you have a research result, you could say, hey, it's worthwhile to do those protocol extensions in order to like move these results to the Lightning Network. But that, of course, is a huge barrier, right? Because now not only the result has to be implemented, but also the protocol has to be changed. So there, a lot of Lightning developers would probably be like, hey, come on, this is too much. Right, whereas the researcher already didn't know that in the first place, would probably also not go that way, because in academia, you usually don't get credits for implementing something into an open source project. You get credits for doing research and publishing papers, right? So this is a general problem of why research results, at least how I see it, don't go that quickly into the Lightning Network protocol. The advantage that I currently have is that I know the assumptions that I can make from the Lightning side, and I try to make my research with as little as possible of changes to the Lightning Network protocol. But as I said, even there, I mean, I'm publishing my results, I'm sharing them on the mailing list, and then when I talk to the other developers, they're like, yeah, it's a great idea, Renee, just hack it in.
Yeah.
So here we go, Lightning Sprint on May.
Fantastic. And this is why Lightning Sprints are so fantastic, because, you know, when Fulmo started the Lightning Network Hack Days, they were these physical things that happened once every, what was it, like 4 or 5 months. And now with these sprints, being able to all jump online. So, you know, there's a silver lining to this crazy COVID times, is that we're getting more, you know, more progress within the Lightning Network because of these great sprints. Fantastic.
Yeah. So the very cool thing is currently we have 3 people working on this. So I have another colleague from my university and another friend. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to mention the name. That's why I'm not doing it right now. But we are currently 3 people doing this. So we have our Lightning node set up here, and we already created some code. We have a fork of the Lightning plugins repository, from which Christian Decker is maintaining. And we already have a rudimentary proof of concept going. So I'm pretty sure we will be able to show some code by the end of tomorrow. And while we're doing this, we're also working in a Google Doc to spec everything out so that we can later make a pull request to the bolts and actually say, hey, here we have the reference implementation as a C Lightning plugin, but we also have a bolt. And people can discuss this then, and maybe then the sharing of balance information becomes a part of the bolts. And I believe this would be very beneficial for a lot of pathfinding techniques and other stuff that could be done. But of course, then all the Lightning developers have to look over this and see this. And well, I mean, you can start your clock, right? I mean, the Bitcoin halving is a very good time frame. This is when the process starts, and then you can see whether it's 1 or 2 or 3 more halvings until it's finally in the bolts.
Well, let's hope it's not that long for sure.
Yeah.
What about your work? You know, you did a lot of work on autopiloting and initial channel openings and who to open the channel with, and I found this very fascinating because one of the big criticisms from other chains, of course, were that it'll all centralize towards these big hubs of liquidity, and then you'll have these giant hubs, and they will become the new banking infrastructure and yada yada yada, all this nonsense. And I remember when I first saw your talk on some of the autopilot research, and I remember thinking it was very interesting because it allowed us to, because at the end of the day, a person that really doesn't know a thing about anything just wants to get their Lightning, their wallet started up, and it just works. And so at the end of the day, I think it's a big important step towards mainstream is to get these autopilot type things working properly. And if they're working properly, they're also working properly to build the topology out to not centralize too much.
Yes. So there are several things to consider here. First, pathfinding and the topology of the network are very closely related, right? Because when I know the topology, I can always find a path. I mean, that's an easy computer science algorithm then. We cannot know the full topology of the network all the time because it includes the balance information, and that is just too much information, because then we would have to notify every node about every payment and then go back to blockchain scaling. So the autopilot and this pathfinding problem are very closely related. And with what I have learned so far in the last half year, I would say, when I really started doing more structured research in the direction of pathfinding, is that a lot of the results that I have can actually be transferred to the autopilot. So I have this like rough idea for a research paper on the autopilot on my desk, but currently pathfinding is a little bit more higher prioritized. But I'm pretty sure like the more concrete results I get from the pathfinding research, I will be able to actually transfer them to the autopilot, because it gives you a huge amount of new chances for having criteria with what nodes to open a channel. And actually this query message that we're currently building of, hey, give me some information about other balances, already gives me a much better understanding of where I might want to open a channel and where I might not want to do that, other than the information I just currently have on the Lightning Network. So yes, the autopilot, I'm completely with you. I think it's an important feature. But what I'm also saying is we should not push an autopilot until we have a good one. And we currently don't know if we have a good one. Right, so if we have an autopilot that produces a really poor topology, then we have to live with this topology of the Lightning Network.
Yeah, exactly. This is something that, you know, because there is the network effects, once they're solidified, there's no such thing as a solid software network effect because it's very fluid. It's not like a hardware network effect of ISPs, but it's still ingrained. So by really having that first go of when people jump in to be able to have a clever way of building the topology out, I think is great. And really take my hat off to your research there, Renee. And have you still got time to give education on the Lightning Network, or have you pulled back on that because of your work?
So in general, I want to make time for it, and I want to continue doing this. As some people have realized, I was one of the people who had very early contact with a person who got infected with COVID-19. And for the past 2 months, I have been coughing very heavily and also having breathing problems and stuff like that. Oh. So I was actually for the last 2 months kind of not working at all. I mean,
I'm so sorry to hear that. Oh, right.
Well, I mean, it's happening. It's a worldwide pandemic, obviously, right? So I mean, it has to hit somebody. But the last 2 weeks I was having some medicine, which was pretty heavy, but luckily working also very well. And today was the last day that I was taking it. So I hope that next week everything will just like stay normal. I'm still coughing more than regular, but yeah, let's see how this evolves. But once my life is back to normal, I'm pretty sure, and I hope I will continue to work on education. I mean, I'm still with Andreas and Lalu writing on Mastering Lightning.
Yeah.
So there's some education work going on, certainly, right? And I think it's important to have both, right?
Yeah, no, very good work. I'm excited for that as well, to get a full paperback of Mastering Lightning. That'll be fantastic.
Yeah,
And
everybody
that's also an open source project, right?
Yeah, certainly.
On Git.
Knowledge should be free.
Yeah, absolutely. Bring that on. Fantastic. Is there anyone else here that we should bring on board? Max and Renee, if you've got time to stick around, I'd love it if you're.
No, my two
hopefully not.
peers are asking and want me back on hacking, so I have to turn off, unfortunately.
All right, fair enough. That is fair
While
enough.
entertainment is awesome, hacking is more important.
Hey, I tell you what though, it would be really cool if you could go out there and get someone else in for us in the Mattermost or.
Yeah, I can drop a message and send it to Jeff.
Yeah, excellent.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks, Renee, for joining. That was
Hey,
very good.
thanks for
Always
organizing
glad to talk to
everything.
you.
See you soon.
Yeah, and
sure.
gute Besserung.
Yeah, tusen tak, how you say in Norwegian.
Nice.
I see we also have Rootsfall in the chat.
Good stuff.
So maybe you
Perfect, then I don't
to
need to fetch somebody.
Oh, there you go. You're off the hook. You're off the hook.
So Rootsfall, how do you like the hack day so far?
Oh yeah, really enjoy it. So I think it's the second hack day, so you always have this. You never know; it just get better, getting in another direction. But really have to say, it's a cool, nice, relaxed starting. And I think I haven't checked out the other channels, so we have to see. But I already did introduction session into the Raspberry Blitz 1.5 release. So and this went quite well. So good feedback from the people. And as far as I heard, good feedback on the updating the node. So yeah, really enjoying it and runs okay.
Oh, that is fantastic. Of course, the Raspberry Blitz, a child of the Lightning Hack Day. So what do you think? How is the 1.5 release? How is it going so far? What's all in there?
Yeah, so in the end, it was a lot of working on two sides. The one thing is more stability of the node, so clearing some concepts up, preparing for future releases, and on the other side, it was kind of getting more apps on extra apps on the Raspberry Blitz, because we still had recently the change to the Raspberry Pi 4 that has definitely now more CPU power and more RAM, and now can really do more than just a Bitcoin full node and Lightning full node, and it can add all the other apps that you can now put on there. For example, what's now there available is the join market, for example, plugin. The OpenOMS did a lot of work on that, and then there is the Spectre desktop, for example. So you can now use the Bitcoin full node there and have a nicer web interface to make multi-sig combinations with multiple hardware wallets, like a Trezor, a Ledger, and a do-it-yourself Spectre wallet, for example. Combine all of that. So yeah, it's coming nicely together, and we had different updates in the new release. So I can go into a little bit. I can show you. I can share a screen if you like, so give you a little bit more detail there.
Yeah, that would be great. Hey, one thing I'd love to step back before
Sure.
you do, and just for all the new listeners out there who've never even heard of a Raspberry Blitz, it just sounds like an amazing milkshake that you'd get somewhere. What is a Raspberry Blitz?
Yeah, so just we can take a look here at the raspberryblitz.com website, what is more like a reduced information starting point about it. So, and as you can see on the picture there, you can it's a Raspberry Pi with a big hard drive, so it's an SSD about 1 terabyte, and it has a LCD on top, so that you can and that's a kind of your hardware basic setup, and then you put this one kind of configure that one with the Raspberry Blitz software, and you have it running next to your router. And what you now have is really the full software stack you need. You're on from the software level, you on kind of on eye level with all the other people running nodes out there, and you can become a functioning part of the Lightning network infrastructure of running a routing node that is always on, sits there, can be run with a lot of privacy, so can run behind Tor. So if you want to keep it a little bit more privacy reserving, and yeah, and you can from the software side, you're on eye level. Of course, this is entry level hardware, so don't expect to do that. You can be the biggest node on the network with this hardware, but it's exactly built for this to not leave it to just the big nodes on the network, so that we have a lot of nodes on the network, smaller nodes that connect each other, and that we always find routes, kind of not needing to go through the big nodes, bigger nodes in the network. So this is more really like for the entry level, a little bit for the hobbyists in the beginning. But I think the goal is to get it more and more into a state where you really can say it's more like for the little guy that also wants to be run part of this infrastructure, and not just leave it to the big shots out there.
Yeah, right. This is definitely one part of the Raspberry Blitz is the learning experience, right? You want to start to figuring out what is actually Bitcoin, what are the different pieces of the software stack, and to setting it up yourself, right? And although the documentation is phenomenal with like step-by-step guides for pretty much everything, it's of course still much more for learning experience than you know specifically using a custodial service or even these prepackaged nodes. So that for sure. But over the many months now, I've been quite impressed by how much more user-friendly the Raspberry Blitz is getting, especially with all these more advanced software pieces on the stack. Like, for example, Join Market. This might be one of the very powerful Bitcoin softwares, but it is still a bit clunky and awkward to set up. And with the Raspberry Blitz, it's a breeze, right? So now we have the ability for every everyday man who wants to learn a bit, but who also might not be a DevOps engineer, to be able to run this more advanced software, and that is just phenomenal to see.
Yeah, I was really happy. So that I'm not that person really big into the CoinJoin systems, but the OpenArms was kind of really was full fire for this, and then was putting time into it. And really, what you now have is really have it very easily set it up on the Raspberry Blitz. What's still, as far as I hear, so it's still command line style. So this is what you have running there, but then you can connect a GUI from your laptop to the Raspberry Blitz. But it's still a little bit tricky, but also for the future should be a little bit more easy. So, but it's a good thing. So the goal is always like if you have something you're interested about, you can use the Raspberry, your Raspberry Blitz to get it running, to improve it, and then share it with the rest of the community. Maybe in the future we have then this everything is edged out, and then it's then it's more and more a node that was built by the community with a lot of contributions and got to a level that it's now kind of a consumer style product. But at the moment, it's really for the personal learning. So it's open enough and accessible enough to get into the grinds very easily. And this is exactly also one feature that is in the 1.5 release now, that it's more easier to connect the Raspberry Blitz to your forked GitHub repo. So you can go to the Raspberry Blitz GitHub, fork this into your own account, and then connect your Raspberry Blitz with it. And then you can much more easily use it to customize it and develop it during, for example, during a hack sprint, or doing whenever you feel like comfortable programming, and then maybe pull requests to give back to the community at one point. So this is exactly a focus we definitely widening at the moment.
Question from me. I've always found it fascinating that full Bitcoin nodes, on-chain Bitcoin nodes, have been something that have been run by really enthusiasts. All the incentives were given to miners, but not really that many to full nodes. Does the Raspberry Blitz allow us to incentivize full nodes on-chain as well somehow?
It incentivizes in different kind of ways. So of course, I think most people heard about, oh, when I run a routing node, I can earn fees. So this doesn't come automatically. So a lot of people setting up a Raspberry Blitz, and as you can see in the new version, there is also a little fee report there. You normally see a long time these little zeros there, and a little bit wondering, okay, why is nobody routing over my node? Because it takes a little bit of work and time and investment, and also experience. I'm also not the most knowledgeable people in that kind of area. So, but you have to find a good place in the network where you place your node, like channel wise, which channels do you have connected to which other nodes, and then you find maybe a good spot after a while where you can be really an active part of the routing. This at least this incentive comes now in, that you could make a little profit there from fees, earning fees. Running a full node can now give you kind of earning fees. So this is a little bit, it's not the mining thing, but it at least has this monetary incentive. But also what's more and more coming, and what people recognize, is all the privacy tools that comes in. So running your own node and having now all the tools there available, kind of you incentivize by gaining more and more of this privacy and sovereignty you have by running your own node. And at least a lot of people seeing this more and more, and kind of waking up to that and saying, okay, because there is always a route, not your keys, not your Bitcoin. I think this is something we communicated in the community quite well over the last kind of years, but more and more, I think it's catching on, like, not your node, not your rules. So once, because when you're not running your own node, other people running the software and deciding on which upgrade path the Bitcoin software will go, what fork to follow in a conflict. And so when you're not running your own node, you're not deciding on the rules. Even you're still owning the coins, but now the coins run by other rules. So that's maybe the next level to understand and to get to. I don't think everybody needs to run a node. So this is always something, I think not everybody needs to run a node, but everybody should be able to run a node when it comes to such a conflict situation in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember, like with battle scars, the war of UASF and O2X. I remember specifically in the months leading up to this, how I was struggling to set up my node on a Raspberry Pi. This was even before the Raspberry Bolt tutorial. So, and it took me weeks to get it going, even though I had a lot of motivation because I knew I started to figuring out what was at stake. But now that we have the ability to just, run the install script and everything is set up somewhat magically, it's fantastic. It really very much is. Rootswell, maybe a question. Do you know roughly the percentage of Bitcoin full nodes, both on-chain and on the Lightning Network, that are running a Raspberry Blitz? Do you have a rough intuition here?
Not really, I really have to say. So I think at least I see from how so let's take it. I'm on the GitHub, so we can see about 800 plus people, almost 900 people start this project. So I can at least see we have a fan base there, and at least if everybody that gave a star runs a node, or at least that's counted, so at least 1,000 nodes. It's like a very conservative thinking here. So I think there maybe, I don't know, it's hard to say. I never wanted to have those numbers because this would mean I have an insight into the network, and we even took more and more measures now to make it not that easy to detect that you're running a Raspberry Blitz. So I don't have real numbers here, but I see, at least from community feedback, that there's a lot of response here, and I think it's at least a certain amount there.
Yeah, that's a feature, not a bug.
Yeah, I think so, and it's exactly we go in more and more to try to also get these little things out that maybe connect you to a central service somewhere, or that makes you identifiable. We even more and more getting to the idea of getting more and more Tor by default. So all this kind of things, and also my reluctance, because a lot of people ask, why is there not an auto update feature on the Raspberry Blitz? It would boost so because I just want to have it running there and updating by itself, but that would mean that most probably there's a central spot somewhere that decides what software gets updated to your hardware. And this, I personally don't want to be in this position that even that somebody comes to me, breaks into my house and say, install please this software to all those Raspberry Blitzes out there and get all the Bitcoins to my account from there, like automatically. Like, no, I don't want that. So I don't want to have this control. So so updates should every time be a decision you make, and even the idea is that you really to keep it that way, you can use an SD card image from another fork very easily in this update mechanism we have right now. So it's a little bit, and now this is a trade-off between being comfortable, being easy, and on the other side being really conscious actions that you do and keep it in a way that it's very easily decentralizable. So if somebody else wants to fork this and then say I'm now the SKYPE Blitz or whatever, like, yeah, go ahead. So this is what it's built for. So
The SKYPE Blitz.
I don't know, whatever people like feel comfortable with. The naming thing is crazy. People always like to make up names and discuss about names.
So what's next then on the roadmap there?
Yeah, so so as you can see, maybe on the picture, we had started to put the touchscreen interface in there. So in this version, we don't have big improvements there because we wanted to take care about other stuff first. I think not sure if it comes directly with the next release, but at least it's now the journey is starting to really work on the usability side a little bit more, because at the moment you have to SSH in. This means you have to use a terminal. Not everybody's very comfortable with using a terminal. So the idea was always there, and we see it also other nodes are doing it, is like providing you a web interface that makes it a little bit more easy for you to communicate with through a web browser with your Raspberry Blitz. But the decision here, and this comes nicely together with the decision to maybe go Tor by default, is really that you then enter this, that you really use the Tor browser then to connect to your node and not a normal browser. So directly your communication with the Raspberry Blitz is kind of secured, and then you don't have any problems with you're on the wrong network or on another network. So it solves a lot of things, and it should be very easy for everybody to just have this. Oh, I want to communicate with the web thing, so I have to download the Tor browser. Oh, I just want to keep it SSH. I just do the SSH thing. So touchscreen, Tor browser communication, like web interface, those are the kind of things we really like to go in the future, because this would make it a little bit more easy and get a little bit more usability there for even for people that are not really that terminal and Unix command line crowd. So
Fantastic. Well, what sort of fees are we racking up here over time? That's what a lot of people want to know.
What are fees like? You see, you mean like what I can earn like by fees?
Yeah, what can you earn? What can you earn?
It would be nice to have other people here from the Raspberry Blitz team, like OpenOrms, here on the call now, because I never optimized my node for fee earning. So other people are really much more professional, tried stuff out and tried that. So when I look here, yeah, I think I have something like in the last day, like 3 Satoshis or something. So that's on my personal node I run. So that's really just for technical tests running more, and having it connected to friends and kind of and community people, like for personal payments and paying on the Room 77 and things like that. So
you know, Rootsel, how much 3 Satoshis will buy you in like 2 more happenings when we're at Moon? That's ridiculously much.
Yeah, so I hope so. Let's see. 3 Satoshis, 3 beers. I hope so.
Exactly. No, and early on, I mean, I mining has never been a big profitable thing. Even back when you could mine with CPU, it was you chewed up more electricity for the amount of value that Bitcoin was at that stage, and people were really always, since the start, holding the Bitcoin for a speculation into the future of when they could sell it and pay the electricity debt that they've built up. And I guess now when you're running full nodes, it'll be the same story. You might be paying some electricity, you might be paying some energy altogether, but at the end of the day, if you wait for a while, the amount of Satoshis that you've racked up, like you said, Max, start to become worth something.
Yeah. So when I remember, like if I would have put all the time that I spent on building little mining rigs, but it was really on a very, very low level. If I took all this time, did some freelance work in that time, and bought just Bitcoin at the time for the money I earned for freelance, I would have definitely different sitting here. So this is yeah, sure. And the thing, I don't know, maybe if you're just doing all the stuff to earn the fees right now, I don't know exactly if that's the really best motivation at the moment. Then definitely maybe don't go with a Raspberry Blitz, because this is more like this machine wants you a little bit to tinker. There are other nodes out there that aiming a little bit more for the person that looking for an out of the box solution there. And if you really just for the economic fee gaining in there, and maybe you know exactly how this works, okay. But at least what it gives you is it gives you a good understanding how the Lightning Network works, and maybe this gives you also some knowledge what may be good places in the network that nobody else was thinking of. So it's about finding those niches, but yeah, I'm not exactly sure, because that's not the game I'm personally definitely deep into. So the fee game.
Yeah, and it's the same thing with the automobile. Back when the automobile was first becoming a thing, there were these slow, disgusting, smelly things. There was nowhere you could get petrol from. It was just annoying to have one. Your mate's horse went way faster, so you never got a car to be able to go somewhere from A to B fast. And I think that's the same thing nowadays with the projects like the Raspberry Blitz. You get them because you have other incentives. Your incentive back then to get a car was because it was fascinating. You had these pistons that could run in a sequence to push the wheels forward, and you got to learn how a car works, and how and you had your little friend circle that all had some petrol reserves, so you could get amongst it. But I think it's the same thing now. You get the Raspberry Blitz because you want to. I mean, look at this badass machine. You get this at home, and you can play around. You get to learn, and you get to also be part of a great community that's building this stuff out. I think it's again, my hat goes off to you as well, Ratul. Fantastic.
So if you really love to talk about those little details, so maybe to just share one or two things about the hardware setup, that what we changed from the last version. So we kind of got rid of the little fan. So maybe remember when the Raspberry 4 work was coming out, it was a great update, because finally we have the CPU power, finally we have the bigger RAM, so to validate the blockchain all by yourself and not relying on some workarounds here. But it gets very, very hot, the Raspberry Pi 4 when it's doing hard work. So we were looking into better cooling and found this little fan that you stick between the LCD and the Raspberry Pi. But this fan was not the best decision we made, because after a while we were seeing, okay, somehow strange stuff is happening, and this Raspberry Blitz is not reacting as it should. And then when we removed this one, it behaves good again. So that was the kind of final thing to get rid of it. And the other thing was really a mechanical fan. In the beginning, it runs maybe very, very not that noisy, but then it gets beep, 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 beep. You get bad noises. You don't want to have this in your living room anymore, or even it just goes dead. So having movable parts there was maybe not the best decision. In the beginning was great because keep the thing cool, perfect. But then we were looking into alternatives and ended up with the so maybe take a better look with the heatsink case. So here you can see it better. So maybe people remember from the Raspberry Pi 3, when we had an earlier version, we were in a similar solution, but now they are also available from multiple manufacturers for the Raspberry Pi 4. So we kind of switched back to those. And even it's getting very, very hot now doing the blockchain validation. The Raspberry Pi 4 still punches through and gets you ready about under 3 days for the complete blockchain validation. So it's still in a good place, much better. So so much better than the old Raspberry Pi 3. So and now you don't have any moving parts anymore. And once the device is synced up, you just have it running there, and it's not noisy. It's just sitting there, and it's cool. So just to let you know, this is one big update. And the second little update is that we changed now as a default recommendation from a 500 gigabyte SSD to a 1 terabyte SSD, because when you switch on all the apps, there are some apps producing big indexes, and this can then really fill up your 500 gigabyte SSD quite quickly. So to be a little bit more future-proof here and to give it enough space for the blockchain to grow, 1 terabyte is recommended. And the good thing is the SSDs in the meanwhile got the 1 terabytes got cheaper. They had a dropping in price, so for kind of 40% pricing, you get about double the capacity now. So I think it's a good time now to set the 1 terabyte SSD as a default.
Very nice. Very nice.
That's very good. A question when we're talking about SSDs. Have you thought about a RAID setup, so that there are 2 hard drives or 2 SSDs, and it kind of mirrors the content on both, so that if one of them breaks, you still have a backup?
Yeah, there is since the 1.4, there is the ButterFS option for the Raspberry Blitz. It's experimental still, so I wouldn't recommend it for really just going with your full production node on it, but it's an experimental stage. And ButterFS makes it really, you have a RAID system built into the file system. So and what you can already do is, at the moment, you don't need a complete second SSD. So because we now, when you run a ButterFS, we separate it with partitions, kind of what is storage. Like, you don't need to have the blockchain in a RAID, because this is data you can get back from the network if you lose it. So you don't have to take care about this saving this data. What's more important is your LND wallet, for example, where you really have the critical data and the channel data and all the little other stuffs. So what we recommended there for the ButterFS, at least it's the experimental setup, is you just add another 32 gigabytes thumb drive to it, because you have USB ports still open. You take one of the small thumb drives, 32 gigabyte thumb drives for US dollars or $8, whatever they cost, and you just put it additionally there, and it builds up a RAID between the important data partition and the thumb drive, and then you have a RAID riding there for that. So, and we already thinking to make something similar for the standard X4 setup, what you're running by default, and maybe looking into similar thing there. But we have to see. It really depends. Somebody wants to contribute some time there, but yeah, data to make it more secure, have the data stored more reliable is definitely something that's very important here.
Well, it's such an exciting project. I'm going to check the chat if there's any questions, and there isn't on the WCN. By the way, folks, give us a like and a sub. You know, that old chestnut, and it helps people see this amazing work that everyone's up to. You know, one of the great things I love about this whole space is the love of open sourceness, and here we have a pretty much an open source hardware solution, which is really fantastic as well. It's one of the really standout things of the Lightning Network Hack Days is it's not only hacking software, here we are hacking hardware.
Yeah, and if I can promote one thing, it's I don't know if you see it yet right now. It's it's a webinar that's for free to join, and it's from one person there, Maisie, 16, from Nigeria. So and experimenting with using a Raspberry Blitz and powering by solar, and having to get really a very independent way to run your Raspberry Blitz there, and so that's very easily usable also in countries with maybe unreliable power that you would have there. So really love to see that. Just saw it on Twitter, and love to see that the Raspberry Blitz project is even inspiring people like in Africa over there to use it and then combine it with their tech. So this is a webinar free to sign up, and everybody, it's because it's on the internet, everybody's free to do so. So it's on May 16. So keep it in mind. I think it's also an interesting thing to join you.
Yeah, this is
Man.
very interesting. And speaking of self-sovereign, energy production, have you thought about adding the Blockstream satellite stuff so that you could have your Raspberry Pi hooked up to a satellite dish?
Yeah, before we were thinking in this direction, but there you needed a very powerful device to decode stuff. So there was the idea of combining a ROC 64 with the Raspberry Pi, but there was kind of a complex setup, and nobody had the time really to get this running. But now they redo. The second version was coming out, right? So, and as far as I was seeing, they're now in a more default. They're using DVB-S protocol, so it's a standard thing where you can also get hardware acceleration stuff, and they have a rack where you just have a network port and you get the data out, and it's transmitted. It's published there somewhere. I really have to look into the specs. I just took a small glimpse at that, but it looks like once you have their setup, because they have the pre-packaged setup now with the satellite dish and this little receiver thingy, and if their network ports comes out, and you have this on your same local network with your Raspberry Pi, with your Raspberry Blitz, this could be interesting to use that to utilize that data then that's on the local network coming from the satellite. So I think with this setup, it could get into a realistic kind of area to combine those two.
Yeah, exactly. I've also seen some report that it now works with a Raspberry Pi. That's why I bring it up.
Okay.
So it would be phenomenal if that could be done. I mean, that just will be next level.
Yeah, especially in that kind of setup where you want to have it powered with solar, like with a good battery, good power backup, and then you have some backup for the internet, for the blockchain information. So because the good thing is, this is something we need to realize is, even if you disconnect from the global internet, you can still use your Lightning channels that you still can connect to the other nodes, because it's just a peer-to-peer thing, right? We're to say, okay, let's send some sets here over that channel, but we don't need the global internet at this moment. But sure, at one point you want to know and monitor the blockchain is if there's channels are closing. So having a satellite set up in that mix, you really get very independent from a global internet connection. This is really coming nicely together here. So.
Yes, for sure.
Very
Absolutely.
cool.
Rootsel, is there anything else that you want to mention here now on live?
It's okay. So I could go into the little details of what is exactly new in the setup, but I don't want, if anybody else is waiting here to show stuff, so I don't want to take up space here.
Yeah, okay, then thank you very much, Rootsel, for joining.
Sure. See you around. So
See you around, Russell. Awesome.
And I see that Suhab has his hand up in the Jitsi call. Hi there.
Oh,
how are you
yeah.
doing?
Hey guys, how are you? Can you hear me?
Good. Yeah, we can hear you. Just checking your mic again.
Check. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think so. Is that coming across to you all right?
Yeah.
Max?
All right.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, welcome. You've got your reckless hat on. Back to the old days when we could all meet. Good to see you.
Exactly.
Virtually
thanks.
here. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know which event this hat is from?
I think it was the second or the New York, was it? No, it was
Yes,
the one
the New
in
York
Berlin.
one.
Ah, was
The
it
New York one. Yeah.
Nice.
It was November of 2018. Yeah.
Yeah, do you know, I flew all the way there,
Yeah.
and I was in Perth, and I flew to San Francisco, and then I flew across just for that event, and I didn't see any of New York. I was literally inside live streaming the whole time, and then we came back, and then I had to fly off again. But yeah, it's that was a really fun event, and a lot of progress happened there. I found.
That was the event on which we integrated RTL with Raspberry Blitz. So that's how I spent my time there. Actually, almost 2 days we worked on making sure that RTL can work, Ride the Lightning can work with Raspberry Blitz.
Excellent. And so, what are you working on now?
Yeah, so Ride the Lightning is a node management web UI solution, which is integrated with Raspberry Blitz, integrated with Nodal, BTC Pay Server, and MyNode. Right, there are a lot of other full node solutions which are packaging in this application to make the node management solution, node management overall, Lightning node management overall much more easier and simpler, basically. So in terms of what we are focusing on right now, there is a release that is going to come out today, which usability improvements is an ongoing thing. Improving UX is always an ongoing exercise. So that's something that we always keep on working based on whatever feedback we get from the users. And then there's another interesting project which I think I talked about last time also. We are working on integrating Eclair. So C Lightning and LND are already integrated on RTL, and now we are working on integrating Eclair as well. And interestingly, there is a person who's actually independently contributing to make that happen. So that's a good thing that we wanted to encourage. Yeah,
that's very awesome to hear, because RTL is such a powerful tool, and to open this up to all the node users now, including Eclair, that is fantastic. Maybe can you share a bit of the experience of working with different node implementations, and how did you like working with LND, C Lightning, and now Eclair?
Yeah, sure. So overall, from a maturity perspective, right? Every time we integrated with a different node solution developer, they provided feedback and input, which made the application better. So, for instance, when I worked with Rootzol initially, so he wanted a login mechanism, like an authentication mechanism. So we added that feature, right? That was a basic feature which was missing in the application at that time. When we worked with Nodal, Catominer said that, why don't you have a solution where you can run or manage multiple nodes through one single UI? So we came up with multi-node solution. So with BTC Pay Server, we Dockerized the whole RTL setup. So any integration that we went with, there were enhancements, requirements, which kept on making the application better and more, versatile to be able to kind of, integrate and work with all of these type of, hardware solution providers.
Yeah,
Sorry, man.
very good. But I meant more specifically the different node implementations, like LND, C Lightning, and Eclair. Did you have to redo a lot of the architecture, or was there a lot of duplicate work done already?
Okay, so yeah, so for LND, the integration with the web UI was actually much more easier, because LND had REST API support, right from the get-go. So it was very easy for us to start writing a node management app on top of LND, right? And that also kind of gave us a model in mind that this is the type of experience we want to provide to a Lightning node operator. Now, once we have that established, then we started looking at, okay, let's look at C Lightning. Now, when we looked at C Lightning, the problem there was that C Lightning didn't have REST API interface. So that was something that was required to be built from scratch. So what we did was we created an independent REST library for C Lightning, which actually any other web developer can also use to develop any web application, either a node management or any other type of integration that you want to do on top of a REST library interface. You can do. So we created that API layer of REST API layer, and then integrated RTL with that layer. So that REST API layer is a separate solution available to other independent developers also. With Eclair, the integration model is comparatively easier because they already have an API interface available. So these are the nuances of development on top of all of these implementations.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I often get asked which implementation should I use when I'm starting on a project, and it's a tough question. How would you answer that?
Yeah, I would, if I had to choose, then I would recommend LND, but it's not. I'm not taking any sides here, but but I would still say that LND has a lot of user-friendly features. Like for instance, a fee report is a very simple API. Fees, everybody's interested in fee, right? When you're running a Lightning node, so LND offers a very simple API. You run a fee report, it gives you daily, weekly, monthly report, right? So that's one simple thing that they have. They have a lot of other features like circular rebalancing, loop integration, which makes onboarding on a Lightning node is another interesting experience that you go through. So when you start a node, let's say you set up a few channels, and let's say you want to receive money, right? So LND has a tool called Loop, which allows you to create, or get inbound liquidity. So it's easier for you to set up a node and start receiving payments, right? So because of all of these features, I like LND much better, easier to work with, and has a lot of features. Whereas other node solutions are robust also, but there are more feature development is something that they can address. So, for instance, when as a developer, when I was working, it was easier for me to start on LND. For C Lightning, there was a lot of prep work that we had to do to get it going.
The I was just looking at the chat here. There was a couple of questions, and I have so many different chats in different areas. I forget where the question. Can't find it right now. But
maybe in the meantime, a question for Eclair implementation. Does it only work with the desktop implementation or their server implementation, or also with their mobile phone apps?
So for mobile phone apps, they already have a UI, so we are not focusing on that. So we are focusing on the running a node Lightning node server and managing your node operations, Lightning node operations. So if you are a routing node operator and you want to run Eclair, RTL will give you a UI so that you can manage all your routing node functions on Eclair.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm having a bit of a problem here with my connection. Nevertheless, so and what's next? What's next for RTL?
Yeah, so like I said, one is once we have these basic three integrations that we want to complete, we wanted to complete LND, C Lightning, Eclair. So once that is done, the next thing that we want to do is basically add more value for the routing node operators. So and that was the intention of creating an RTL solution anyway. So we were focused on the infrastructure side. RTL is an infrastructure focused app. It gives you a mental model of what your Lightning node is, what are the different salient data points that you have to track, and it is very comprehensive in its coverage of all the different Lightning node functions, right? So so the natural progression from that perspective is for us to provide more intelligent tools for routing node operators. So typical decisions that a routing node operator would face is, okay, which of my channels need rebalancing, right? How much I need to rebalance? How do I, which channels are more, are more revenue generating, right? For me, like which channels are giving me more fees? So these type of questions, a typical routing node operator would need to understand. And if you are actually running a decent routing node, let's say you have 50 plus channels, the data becomes so overwhelming that it becomes difficult for you to really make sense out of all of this noise. Right? If you're running a node with 10 channels, you can visually look at it and make educated guess. But if you're running a node with a lot of channels, you need automated tools which help take you all these decisions so that you allocate your liquidity intelligently and generate more routing fee revenue out of that. So that's the progression that we want to take. We want to provide more smarter solutions for automated node monitoring, which allows you to become a better, more robust routing node operator.
Yeah, as I was saying to Russell just before, a lot of us really are motivated to run a full node because it's super fascinating. But the more and more I talk to people that want to get into the space, the more they're saying, how do you make money running nodes? And it's always the same question.
Yeah.
And And so I'm really looking forward to these solutions being able to be, a very easy thing to fire up, an easy way for people to support the network and getting a monetary kickback for this.
Yeah, that aspect is very important, for the Lightning Network to grow, I feel, because there has to be a factor of reliability which we have to, make into the network. The payments that we are making have to be reliable, right? And that reliability will come from having, widespread routing node network. We need more liquidity providers. We need more intelligent, smarter liquidity providers who allocate the liquidity efficiently, who keep their channels balanced, and there is a financial incentive for them to do all this work. So making that Lightning Network more robust is an important goal, and that's where we feel that having solutions like RTL and more automation or node monitoring helps making that part of the network better.
Yeah, very good. So how have you experienced upgrades to the protocol, or rather the implementations of the protocol? Maybe as an example, recently the multipath payments is now both in LND and C Lightning, and I think Eclair already too. So how did you implement this in the GUI? Did this change anything of the user workflow?
Yes, it changes the user workflow a little bit. Not workflow per se, but provides an optionality, right? If you are sending an outgoing payment in a UI, you should be able to, and especially if it is a bigger payment, let's say, right? We can set up specific thresholds. Let's say if you are sending a payment of any payment above 50,000 sats or 100,000 sats, right? Then you can have an optionality of, enable multipath payments, right? So that the probability of your payment failures is reduced. And so actually I created an issue for this hack sprint. If somebody's interested in, creating or working on that, then that contribution is welcome. Before we actually attempt it, I wanted to keep it for the hack sprint. So that's where I feel that, from a UI perspective, if you have outgoing payments increasing a specific threshold, you can enable in the UI that, enable MPP for the payment, and then your payment, the probability of your payment failing should be much lower.
With the amount of implementations that you have in place, why did you choose to implement all three implementations instead of just going with one?
So it's only fair to support all the major implementations, and not be sticking to one particular implementation, because anyway we are an open source community project, so we don't want to say that we are just developing on top of LND, although it definitely required more development work to enable it on C Lightning, but that makes C Lightning also more usable, right? Overall helps with the ecosystem. And in fact, if you look at Eclair, there was an issue open on our repository for Eclair integration. And then I saw a comment, somebody saying that, Eclair is now trying to move away from their UI, which is the node management UI. They want to decommission that, I think. I don't know whether that's a fact. I didn't check with them. But somebody said that, Eclair wants to kind of decommission their node management UI. So it'll be good to have, a UI like RTL, which provides all these functions. So, and another important factor is, implementation developers can focus on the protocol, right? They can focus on the engineering side of Lightning Network. We can, as a community project, can provide the user interface solution so that, implementation don't have to worry about that. So that, and since all these implementations are working on protocol, so we are making that UI solution available for everybody, so that, protocol developers focus on protocol improvements.
Yeah, that is very smart, right? The OpenBSD philosophy of build one thing but build it good, and I think that is what RTL is, right? It's not even trying to be like a user-facing node for just receiving and sending payments. Although this is of course possible, right? But for example, a mobile app like Phoenix just is a million times better and more optimized for it. But if you really want to have that full routing node main operating hub, I mean, it's RTL. It's just perfectly made for it.
Yeah, that's what we focused on always. Like I said, it is an infrastructure focused app. Although integration with BTC Pay Server brings in the persona of merchant users. So we are tweaking the interface a little bit so that the merchant users, which are less technical, so we are giving them a dashboard more focused on a merchant node operator. But overall, the focus continues to be on enabling the infrastructure or routing node operators. Because if you look at the overall ecosystem of Lightning, there is an end user which is making payments, receiving payments. There is a merchant which is receiving payments to do their to run their commerce, and then in the middle there is a whole network, the routing network, which is enabling payments from merchants to the customers. And now wallet end user apps focus on the merchants, right? So like you said, the Phoenix wallet, it is focusing not the merchants but the consumers, right? But nobody's focusing on the routing node operators, who are also a critical piece of the ecosystem, right? So if we don't have tools like RTL, it'll be much difficult for a routing node operator to kind of manage all the complexity which comes with managing a routing node.
So is RTL then an app on the Raspberry Blitz, part of the
it is. Yeah, you have an option to enable RTL, and then it'll download the repository from GitHub and install the UI.
Where does your passion come for this? Where did you where did you suddenly wake up and think, we need this middleware between the implementations and the hardware and the full nodes?
Yeah,
and we need that nice GUI. Where did your inspiration come from?
It's a mix of a passion about Bitcoin and trying to do my bit from whatever skills we have, right? So that is the whole thing, right? That I have a strong feeling, and we have a strong feeling that everybody should do whatever they can for this ecosystem, right? Otherwise, if you're expecting that some company will wake up and say, okay, let me do something about Bitcoin, right? Let me make this ecosystem better. It will never happen. It is a people's project, and it has to be people working on this protocol to enable different parts of the ecosystem to make it better for everyone. So that is the main motivation. And the second motivation was to learn about Lightning Network. So learn by doing, become subject matter expert by doing things. So these are the driving factors which keep us motivated. Although if you look at the RTL project, it's a completely volunteer project, and nobody's getting paid for all this work. We all have our full-time jobs, but we still contribute our time to continue to develop this app. And it's not just me, so I'm just focused on the functional side of things. On the development side, Shahana is the developer, one person writing all of this UI and middleware. And then on the UX, we have Diogo Sergio, who gives us the UX inputs to make the app look so polished and better. So and yeah, like I said, it's completely volunteer, but we enjoy contributing with whatever skills we have.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. I think I think you don't only speak for RTL there, but a lot of the entire open source movement really here on Bitcoin is that when you ask them what wakes you up in the morning, what gets you excited, it's not generally the day job that they're at, but it's this crazy side project that's he's hacking away at some edge case thing, yeah. And but they just love it, and humans have so many different things that inspire them to work and to do great work, and this is just another example of it. Doing something quite, as most people, I guess, if you talk to friends, they don't even understand Bitcoin, let alone some esoteric side of the second layer solution. But really amazing work. I can't wait to, actually, I'm going to make it my thing to get a Raspberry Blitz. I've really been putting it off far too long. I'm very, very excited to do that. I decided last week, actually, I've got to get in touch with Rousseau and get myself a Blitz. Yeah.
Yeah,
so,
none of my friends understand my work, actually. To be honest, none of my friends, they understand my work.
Yeah, right. So you're
Yeah.
standing at the barbecue. Well, not at the moment, but and trying to explain what you do. How would you explain what you do? Where do you start?
Yeah, yeah. If I have to, what I do is I tell them, okay, you have a internet router at your home, right? You use internet, so there's a router sitting at home, right? And you don't really understand how it works, right? But it works all the time, and you get your internet service, right? First of all, long-term view of full nodes will be like that. A node should be there in every home, sitting and giving you the services that you need to be self-sovereign. But I say that if you have to manage certain router functions, you typically write in and go to your browser and type in a IP address, and then it opens up a interface for you, right, where you actually perform routing functions or try to do something. So I give them an example that I'm building something like this for Bitcoin, right? You go and open open up a browser, type a URL, and then it opens up an interface for you to do something. That's the high level,
That's a very good way
view.
of putting it. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. We should have asked you that at the start of the interview, dag nabbit. Well, yeah, no, it's very, very cool. And one thing I did want to ask the other people, and I'll start with you, is what other projects in this space that you've seen people hacking away on are you enjoying following, or are you part of any other projects?
No, not really. I'm just focused. Given my full-time job and then all this work, it becomes very difficult for me to spend time anywhere else. So the library that I maintain for C Lightning, the REST library, and then RTL work, and then we are also trying to maintain a design library separately for RTL, where we are trying to keep it open source. So all of these things kind of keeps us busy all the time. So couldn't find time to, and then we get a lot of inputs, a lot of feedback, a lot of troubleshooting that we do. People are contacting me all the time with their problems, so that leaves very little time for anything else.
Yeah,
and interesting. And you mentioned that you work on the Rust library for C Lightning. Have you looked into the Rust Lightning library and the Rust Lightning node implementation?
Okay, so I just wanted to clarify. I'm talking about the REST library, R-E-S-T, not Rust, R-U-S-T. But I know about.
Okay.
Yeah. But I have not looked at the Rust implementation of Lightning yet. I've not looked at that.
Another implementation for you, right there.
Yeah.
There are actually two Rust Lightning implementations.
Oh, yeah?
More or less parallelly, they cooperate or something.
Huh.
No, I see. Okay.
It's funny, on the base layer protocol, we really had kind of only really two different implementations of Bitcoin, right? We had Amir Taki's version, Libbit, what was that called?
LibBitcoin?
It slipped my mind right now, but two implementations, and I always found it interesting that there were implementations of a common protocol. What do you think that there will always be multiple implementations across different doing different things, or do you think they'll slowly merge? People will decide to use one, and devs will drop off another, and how do you see it playing out?
Yeah, that will be an interesting thing to watch, but I think so far all the implementations are trying to create or focus on their specific niche. So for instance, C Lightning is focused on server-side implementation, I believe. And Eclair is more focused on mobile users. L&D is more focused on, end users, running their own routing node and, performing all the different, Lightning Network functions. So, but if you look at overall, and I've run some Twitter surveys to get a perspective of, what type of node users are running. Sorry. So what I've found is that almost 70% of the users are running L&D, and all the other implementations are like 30% of the users. But that survey I ran about almost 6-7 months back. I don't know, what might be the latest kind of mix.
If I can, I wanted for a second to go back to the this all sort of supporting different implementation thing. So I see a lot of Lightning projects talking about we want to support all the 3 major implementations, and then someone wants to support Rust Lightning, and someone wants to support Electrum Lightning when it will be out. And I've been contributing to a nice project, in my opinion, which is called Lighter, which is a Lightning node wrapper. My point is, I cannot see why this community is doing this duplicated effort in order for each project to support all the implementations, and why we cannot just move all that effort to a common wrapper and then each piece builds on top of the wrapper. Is it just because it's unknown, or?
That's a really interesting question. I like.
Yeah, I think I know about Lighter. I think it's an API library which tries to create a common interface layer for all the implementations, right? If I'm not wrong, is that what Lighter is?
It is. It offers a gRPC implementations over API over the 3 main plus Electrum, and we're working towards finding the next one.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's actually a very good. I looked at Lighter initially. I'm just sidetracking a little bit, but I looked at Lighter initially when I was trying to integrate C Lightning with RTL. But we were looking for a REST implementation, and you had a gRPC layer, so we didn't go through with Lighter at that time. But that's an aside. But I think to the specific point that you were making, I don't really know, but I think everybody wants to if you look at overall the way protocol has been progressing or maturing, each implementation, which is either C Lightning, has a different development philosophy also, right? So C Lightning is written in C, LND is written in Go, and Eclair is a Scala implementation, and Rust Lightning is Rust implementation. So I think what I feel is that what they're trying to do is create a very wide open space for any programmer with whatever level of skills, whatever programming language skills they have to contribute, and not be constrained by a particular programming language of choice, right? That is, I think, that can be one of the objectives. I think you can say that. That allows for the overall Lightning Network development to pool in or to dip in a larger group of programmers, right? So for the protocol maturity, protocol development, if we stick to one particular,
that I completely agree with. But since implementations offer APIs, whatever you are building on top of them, it doesn't really matter what language you're talking or using. You can just talk to the APIs.
Yes,
so
that's right.
But for the contribution, I totally agree with you. But for the using, so when you write for example, RTL or LNBits or Raspberry Blitz, for example, the effort you have to do to write down all the calls to translate the calls you receive internally to the right API towards the node, it's a whole load of a duplicated of effort. So
it is, yeah.
I can see. I wanted to answer on the gRPC thing you said. gRPC was a choice. We discussed about it, comparing it to REST APIs. But the thing about gRPC is that it has a lot of security integrated into it and easily deployable. While with REST APIs, you just have to do it manually on top. And it's a bit harder at the beginning, but it comes with a lot of advantages over REST.
I was actually trying to see if we can explore gRPC based integration, but then we decided to keep our stack simpler and just stick with REST. But I did try Lighter, and I definitely am familiar with your project actually.
Thank you. I wanted to receive some input from who could potentially use it and see why people are not using it.
Yeah, actually, I think it's a good idea to create a common layer of APIs and not worry about what implementation you're running. I think it's a great idea. There is a lot of development effort on your part to make that happen, but I think it is fruitful for the developers who are developing apps to not really worry about what implementation to run, right? So you can run any implementation, just run lighter on top and develop your apps. That's actually a really good idea, and I'm actually very excited about that. Because I know.
So we just have to market it better.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe, definitely.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Steph, for jumping in there. It's also, by the way, guys, if anyone wants to jump in with any questions anytime here, this is an open conversation, absolutely. Yeah, I think, Max, if you had any other comments.
No, I think we covered quite a lot. Do you have anything else to say about RTL? Maybe specifically about where you might need help for during the hack sprint?
Yeah, so there is one area where we definitely can, get help, but that's not a very exciting area. So, automated testing is one area where we are not able to make progress. So if anybody has a JavaScript developer or an Angular developer who wants to contribute with writing automated test cases so that we improve the quality of our app, then that contribution is most welcome. And we have, from a hackathon feature perspective, I have listed a lot of tickets. If you're interested in feature development, by all means, go ahead and jump in and pick out the tickets. Yeah, overall, there are some like testing gaps which we definitely need help on. So if anybody can, help us with that, it'll be almost, significantly welcome.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. Also, if anyone wants to get in contact with you after the sprint, how do they?
Sure. Yeah. So you can either follow me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is my2sats at Suheb SUHEB __. Or you can reach out to me at GitHub or just go to Google and search Write the Lightning space LND, Write the Lightning space C Lightning, and you'll be able to land on our GitHub repository. And then you can get in touch with us through GitHub also.
Excellent, excellent. Well, thank you very much for popping past, and looking forward to what comes out of this lightning sprint. Very exciting.
Thank you. Thanks for the time.
So who have we got next, Max? This is just an all-star lineup here. Last minute, I've jumped in last minute here from Fulmo, and I just can't believe my luck that I get to talk to all these amazing.
I don't see any hands up, so if others want to speak, please raise their hand or just start talking. But I see that OpenNoms is in the chat. He's always talkative. So what are you tinkering on?
While we're waiting here, I've got a message on the live chat on the World Crypto Network saying, LN is centralized, prove me otherwise. I mean, I don't even know where to start. It's so decentralized, it's amazing. I really love that there's so many implementations, there's so many people working on different parts of it. The node count is totally out of control. It's wild, and it's private. I just I really I'm perplexed that people still bring up that sort of nonsense. Actually, Max.
Yeah, and actually, I don't think that centralization or decentralization is a good metric. Is it censorship resistant? Can someone steal money from you? Can someone stop you from sending money? And the answer is no. Even, I mean, the only person who might be a bit of a trouble is your direct channel buddy, right? Because he just can refuse to sign messages or transactions. Well, then you settle back on chain and open a new channel. Might even do that with a splicing transaction, and nobody can stop you from doing that. So no, it's not censorable. It's not custodial. It's as Josh said, very private. So I don't really care how much decentralized it is, but of course it is quite decentralized, right? As Josh has pointed out. So yeah, just wrong assumptions.
Yeah. There. Oh, Ruzo, jump on in.
Yeah, because the centralized decentralized discussion has kind of triggered me. So, just what I want to add is like the Lightning Network is from its structure with its nodes doesn't prevent the network from going into a state where it's a very few big nodes kind of in the middle, like a lot of people just choosing the channels and to route over those big nodes. But what you have to keep in mind is, as long as the user or the person that doing the payment is can decide on the route, can still decide on the route, then you can always choose your route. And it could be that a route that is going around bigger nodes is maybe a little bit more, you have to pay more on the fees or something, but you always can choose this. This is a bit like the internet. Like, we cannot forbid for people using big hubs like Google or Amazon. So there is the freedom in this network that also allows people, of course, to be lazy. So this of course can happen, and this is always something we have to watch and always have to give alternatives against. But what Max was saying, like this network is not restricting you to use it in a decentralized way. So if you connect your channels well, and if you build your node, and it takes a little bit of time to really connect you well with edge nodes that are not directly in the center, then yeah, you can use this network in a very decentralized way, and nobody can really kind of forbid you to do so. So this is the most important part I see here. That there's already some bigger nodes out there. Yeah, that's true. And if people are lazy and just want to have short routes that don't provide the privacy that the Lightning Network can give you, and just route over one node to pay one node, yeah, that's lazy. So yeah, it doesn't forbid you to do that, but we are building the alternatives, and they are there, so everybody can start and use it in a different way.
Yeah, no, they're really good points, and I think I brought it up at the start of the conversation. Well, almost 2.5 hours in, so you can go back. But building a physical network is very, very easy to become centralized. It's very, very easy to monopolize physical networks, and we see that in the ISP space. But there are ways that we can stick up antennas and actually create mesh networks fairly easily. It's just that people still haven't had the need to, because the other one works so well. But if you did want to actually create a new ISP, it is extremely, extremely hard and very expensive. You have to lay new cables. You have to go door knocking. Hey, who wants to use my ISP? It's a very expensive thing. Now, software-based networks are very, very easy and cheap to create routes around bad actors. So if there's a bad actor, it is really not a big deal, unlike a bad actor ISP, which would be a very big deal, and you'd need to almost get a whole community in place to rile up against them to do anything. Whereas a software, you can really just fire up a node, fire up other nodes, start connecting to other nodes, ignore the bad actor, and you're back to a wonderful space where you have ultimate choice.
Yep, totally agree.
Yeah, that's me rant right there. Max, do you have anything to say about centralization of the space?
Well, no, not really. I don't think it's an issue. It's good FUD, but that's pretty much it to it.
Yeah. Do we have another guest here?
Yeah, so I was about to say we have OpenOms and Oleg in the chat.
Oh yeah.
Are you guys here? Want to talk?
I'm around, yeah. I'm just like in a noisy environment here. Yeah, but I really enjoy listening. Today's probably a very good learning day for me. Thank you very, very much.
Absolute, my pleasure. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
same for me.
I mean, maybe the noise wasn't too bad. If you want to say a couple sentences or two, how's it going with Fulgor Ventures, a VC fund that is, I think, only focused on Lightning or layer 2, layer 3 stuff? What are the new projects that you're tinkering on?
We're doing good. Thank you very much, Max, for asking. We've recently became partners with Casa, and I'm really excited about working with Casa folks on Bitcoin security going forward. We've also added a couple of other companies in the portfolio, and one of them is Setsback. It's Tom from Poland, who's building a rewards. Josh, you probably know it, yeah. Rewards program powered by Bitcoin and Lightning. I think it's going to be very exciting. We've also supported Hexa Wallet recently. Hexa Wallet is a UK-based team building a Bitcoin-only non-custodial wallet with Shamir secret sharing to facilitate like recovery and more secure storage of your Bitcoin keys. And I've been following recently quite a lot on the RGB progress. That was like the reason I tried to pitch Sergey Tikhomirov in his presentation a bit earlier today about decoupling transfer of asset and the transfer protocol, because from his talk it was kind of it's kind of sounded that micropayments is not possible, but hey, like what is micropayments, and like do we really like transfer a value that is Bitcoin only, or we can transfer any other assets? I think it's going to be very exciting. I'm really amazed with the progress that RGB folks are making towards the ability to issue assets and transact with assets on-chain and off-chain with Lightning. I think it's still a long way to go. I'm always very kind of like, not very, but slightly reasonably pessimistic about the development pace and how things are building up. And I believe it's better to build up slowly but steadily and reliably, and then suddenly. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. We have a few more projects maybe coming up soon that are going to be focused on Lightning. I think it's still in the works. Have you guys seen like an influx of new development, new activity? Have you seen any new projects that maybe like we have missed? What's your, like, if I may ask you, what's your understanding of the current temperature of incremental development, meaning resources and project ideas?
That's always a very good question, right? And I must say, I'm no longer that at the cutting edge pulse of the Lightning Network, but what I can speak certainly for Wasabi development is that just in the last couple of weeks, we've seen 3 or 4 new developers coming in, offering to volunteer some and make the project a bit bigger and better that way. And this was quite surprising because it's I think this is always a nice way of gauging new interest of maybe a bull market coming up where just more and more people want to build awesome stuff. And I imagine that is very similar in the Lightning Network specifically too, that there are several newcomers who might have been already interested in Bitcoin or might be complete new to the ecosystem, but now want to focus more of their time and attention onto building these tools. So I would say that we are really getting ready for a new wave of interested contributors and users. It's definitely a very exciting time.
Yeah, I would say I really liked LN Markets and the idea of having markets and marketplaces, because at the end of the day, there's still the killer app for Bitcoin and the wider crypto community really is trading and speculation. Sadly, it's changing a lot, and it will change to be more based on actual money. But I do really like some of the work that they're doing. Very, very interesting work with exchanging, being able to speculate with Lightning.
Yeah, you know, Josh, that you bring that now up, and to carry on what Olga has said previously, the RGB whole ecosystem, LNPBP
amazing.
standards,
Yeah.
they really do cover quite many points. It's not just a more proper standardization of the Lightning Network that I think makes more sense. Like the LNPBP standards, I think, are more refined than the Bolt standards. So that is very exciting. Of course, the Rust Lightning node, which is one of the most interesting nodes, I think, has a lot of potential. I still like the C Lightning node for its plugin architecture, but I think the Rust Lightning node just takes the same concept of modularity and increases that by 10x. So that's very promising. Of course, issuing assets, right? That's something that
huge.
I mean, the whole ICO craze showed that there's huge demand for it. We just didn't yet have the right technology for it.
And if I'm not mistaken, there's also smart contracts in there as well to be able to do, because I think that the whole DeFi space is also fascinating, of being able to take finance and some of these more complex financial instruments and put them onto a decentralized mechanism. I feel is
and especially
really
with the RGB architecture of client-side validation, right? This is no longer a scalability issue. All of a sudden, you can have the most complex Turing-complete craziness on your own local server, and nobody else has to verify it, right? You just have zero knowledge proofs to have timestamps and all this, which is very, very fascinating. And then Josh, one more thing that you brought up earlier was the trading of these assets. Right, but the cool thing is this is already integrated, or this is part of the RGB stack, is the Spectre decentralized exchange, right? Where all of a sudden, as soon as you have both a Satoshi Bitcoin value channel and an RGB asset channel, you can become a decentralized exchange and make or take trades, which I think that's just one of the aspects that brings RGB together to such a holistic, awesome project, that it really covers almost every part of the Bitcoin ecosystem that is exciting.
I was really, yeah, you want to go ahead?
Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to admit I was really excited by the amount of work RGB folks put into putting up this education and background information for people who are useful, especially for people who are less technical, like myself. So I really watched their presentations to kind of get an up-to-date view of the Bitcoin security and everything that they build upon, all these small pieces. Do you think there is a need for additional education material on any of the levels of Bitcoin ecosystem, from technology to the financial applications on top of it, or is it kind of good the way it is right now?
Oh yeah, that's of course a very big question, right? And I think there's always need for more education and to keep the education up to date, right? I mean, the World Crypto Network has been crunching out videos, thousands of them, for such a long time. And then another project that I'm familiar with is of course Wasabi, and here the documentation has been in work for over a year now, with many thousands of contributions too. And we're getting to that point where it's pretty stable. There is not much information missing, but of course the software improves, right? So now we're working on the next CoinJoin algorithm, and that will change the user experience quite drastically. So this has to be kept up to date, right? Or same with RGB. There are many rather technical explanations and presentations and PDF documents. Of course, the 3-day Milan recordings, which were very, very in-depth. But I still think there's a lot missing. I mean, there's almost no written documentation, not a in-depth development documentation, let alone a user documentation. So there's a lot missing, and so yeah.
So if there was some availability of some resource or some effort to contribute towards it, where would you, Max, think it's better to put it? Towards doing written documentation, or maybe towards doing video courses and more kind of like interactive video content in terms of online education as it is in the internet right now?
Oh yeah, another very good question. And I've experienced this here also again with Wasabi, where the CK Snacks, a company contributing to Wasabi, has a monthly budget of $1,000 that goes towards the written documentation. And we're currently in talks to increase that to also cover blog posts and videos. And in my experience, this was a tremendous benefit. This really has helped the documentation from just being my pet project where I work on the side to one where we have like 30, 40 contributors regularly, fixing typos and all that, and providing new content. So definitely this is one of the very compelling things. And I don't even think that a lot of resources are needed, but just the fact that there is some financial incentive to write proper documentation is very good. Now, where to apply it? I think for any type of education, honestly, this includes the written doc and videos. It might even go so far to be like direct user support or peer support in Telegram or other Twitter like chat applications where users have questions, where all of a sudden now if you write answers, maybe you can get a tip over the Lightning Network, or there's like some stuff that you could do. I think definitely that there is some need for this and a lot of opportunity here to improve the ecosystem in general.
Interesting, thank you. That's probably some feedback that we could give to RGB team as well, because I think RGB documentation is also still in the works. Yeah, thank you for sharing.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, it's hard enough to get developers to actually comment code properly, let alone write full documentation. It's a constant struggle, and there is such a big learning curve when it comes to Bitcoin, let alone the Lightning Network. So anything that makes that easier, whether it's online seminars to full documentation and PDFs, I think it really would help a lot, Oleg. Yeah.
Do you have any idea how it is done in different, so to say, blockchains? Because I must admit, like my focus is super limited. There are so many things on Bitcoin and Lightning which is hard to track. So I hardly track anything outside. Have you ever like had any chance to see what's going on in other ecosystems in terms of education documentation?
Or like the shitcoins don't even have code, so I doubt that they have good documentation. Well, but on the other hand side, it might be that because they need the FUD and the marketing, that their documentation is very pretty and good to look at. But then when you try to look deeper, you find that there's almost nothing there. But no, all the same for me. My focus is very narrow on good weapons like Bitcoin, so I can't really provide a good answer here.
Yeah, I have to also say I haven't spent too long looking through full documentation. I have spent a little bit of time on the Ethereum network, but again, that's a very big mess because of the whole upgrade to a whole new side project of Ethereum 2, and I think that's basically in development. No one really. It's kind of at the same space that the Lightning Network is. It's a whole bunch of different people throwing ideas through all sorts of different chat programs, and there's not really any central way of collecting this stuff until someone like yourself or someone else that's motivated to make that happen. But yeah, I think Max is right that a lot of the time when there is a really sort of just a nonsense coin, which is basically a fork of Bitcoin or something like that, they'll change a few lines and then make the documentation really pretty to as a marketing stunt. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think this is something we can definitely learn from because centralized projects like, let's say, WeChat or Alipay and some of these other things, they're not open source, but when they do bring developers on board, everything is very well outlined, and you can bring new people on board very quickly and get them up to speed. So it's definitely something that this space needs to do a bit more focus on, because some of these developers, they have to spend a long time just to get up to speed, and that's unfortunate. So I think, have we got anyone else that wants to raise their hand? Unless you had something else, Oleg, that you wanted to talk about. By the way, if you are interested, Oleg has some amazing. The Fulgor is a really such an interesting VC because of the focus, the absolute laser focus on the Bitcoin network and Lightning in particularly. So it's definitely go check them out. OpenOms.
Hi, hello. Can you hear me well? Because I'm on a bit of a basic setup now.
Yes, can hear you perfectly.
Yeah, that's great. No, I'm just you we're bringing up this fees coming in from running a full node topic a couple of times, and just wanted to comment on that. Really, that I've been doing some research and trying to make the best I could for myself as well, which is obviously negligible. Just saying that, like learning the Lightning node itself, I don't think that anyone can kind of be profitable on it. And it's not about earning fees. It's more about what you can save on the on-chain fees you would otherwise use. So because if you have direct channels to peers you are transacting with often, you won't, on the direct channels, you don't pay any kind of fee for sending payments back and forth, sending and receiving payments. So that can be a huge saving in certain situations between friends, for example, or connecting to a merchant you are often transacting with. Let it be a coffee shop or let it be something, a service you are using often. So, yes?
Yeah, sorry, Max, you go for it.
Yeah, that's a very good point that you bring up, OpenOms, right? And of course, there's a big incentive for regular customers to be directly connected with a channel to the merchant. On the other hand, though, right, it's also a privacy issue, especially if it's a non-announced channel. Then every payment that is made is clear to be a payment from that user. So the merchant might get some information about the user spending pattern, right? And this is here where again trade-offs come in, right? Because if you have a route with multiple hops, then it's much more difficult to find the source of that payment, both apply here.
Yeah, no, that's true. Although you can keep Lightning usage very cheap, even if you are not having a direct channel. I mean, the best example of that, if you are running a routing node, which is by the nature of it is quite public in terms of on the Lightning network. So it's very difficult to avoid to kind of get your pub key connected to, like when looking for incoming liquidity or looking for peers to be connected, it's a very good practice to have like personal connections to the people you are connected with, especially if you are putting a lot of money on the line. But if you have a routing node set up like that, or you can have as many as you want, as it is like quite a small kind of hardware investment, you can take any kind of Lightning wallet where you have non-custodial Lightning wallet where you have control of your channels. Let it be the Breeze wallet or the Lightning app from Lightning Labs or Eckler mobile wallet, or there are certainly a couple of others like the Bitcoin Lightning wallet and so on, where you can open a channel to your own Lightning node and pay through that. So you have a well-connected node, and any fees you are paying for the routing is actually going to your own node, so it's not lost. And in that way, you have a hop in between, and the peer who you are connecting with, let it be a direct peer of your routing node, or from a couple of hops away, wouldn't know that it was coming from your mobile wallet on the other side of two channels. And so this way,
Yeah, very good points that you bring up, and I agree with you that the incentive is not really to earn money based on the fees, but rather to save fees by not having Bitcoin on-chain transactions. Right? I cringe every time I make an on-chain transaction because it's so wasteful. If you could make one on-chain transaction to open a Lightning channel and then have infinite spending capacity within that fund limit through the Lightning network. So it's more to be viewed from that side. I agree.
Yes, especially if you're able to earn on Lightning, let it be. I mean, we are quite early for that to get a salary on Lightning, but you could sell something, and then for the same or similar amount, you could buy something, and you would just pay back and forth on the same channels, which would never exhaust. And as you say, you can see a Lightning channel as a batch transaction of infinite number as you can, and also you can lower your time preference on sending that on-chain transaction when you open the channel, because you have, like, let's say, plenty other ones. It's not the first one you open, so you can just set it up and use the minimum fee and wait for that Sunday night when everything confirms at last. And then from them, you just use the channel back and forth as we described. So, but I mean, it is possible to earn some fees, but that is active management. It is work, and as like Rutso mentioned, if you want to earn money, you'd rather do something which is more profitable and then turn that income to Bitcoin, really. But someone who is like, to take an example, like someone like Alex Bosworth, who is the Lightning infrastructure engineer of Lightning Labs, and he's running huge nodes like the YALs, and he's also managing the Loop service node. He did say that it is possible to earn about 1% of the investment in terms of Lightning routing fees per year. So it is quite, well, from a non-inflatable currency, it is actually significant. But
yeah, for sure, right? It's a non-inflatable currency. 1% is a huge margin, and further, it's trustless. It's riskless. There's no risk of losing the asset, other than some edge cases where your node goes offline. But usually, it's non-custodial, right? So this is actually quite a huge return for basically a risk-free invest or a risk-free holdings of your sound money. Probably the largest risk being that your keys are hot on a hot computer. But if that is somewhat solved, it's quite a lot.
Well, and it's also a very early phase of the Lightning Network. So the more usage we get, obviously the fee market will get more hot on Lightning as well. And those are related to the amount transacted, as you probably know, as the on-chain fees are only related to the transaction size in bytes. And you can transact any amount, the fee will be the same. Doesn't matter if you are sending 10,000 Satoshis or 1 million Bitcoin. Not like I know anyone who has that much. But on Lightning, to send like 1, 10, 100,000 Satoshis, usually it's not higher. It doesn't cost more than a couple of Satoshis itself. But if you paying high value items or transacting a lot of money, like sending it and withdrawing from exchanges, then it will get proportionally more. So we are talking about like 0.01. If you have an expensive route, maybe 0.1% of fee, and that can be significant if you are talking about higher amounts.
Yeah, that's a good point with higher amounts. Openum's a question. How do you think that multipath payments affect this? Will this decrease proportionally the fee for large value payments?
Well, this is something to be seen, I think. It is not making it cheaper, I think. It will make it more efficient in terms of higher, there is a higher chance of finding a route, because the channel sizes are limited. I mean, there is like an average size, and you have very few large channels, and especially like a number of 10 or between 10 and 20 which are like Wumbo channels, more than 16.7 million sats. You have a handful of those only. And with the LND 010, Lightning Labs had, so in the LND implementation, the maximum size of a payment has been lifted as well, which is, I think it's been lifted to something very arbitrarily high. So it's like 100,000 Bitcoins, which is, it's not possible to transfer on the Lightning Network at the moment because the all capital tied down in there is like 950 Bitcoins. So theoretically, you couldn't make a higher payment than that if everything comes together. But basically, you will be able to make higher value payments now than without the multipath payment setup. But not necessarily would make it cheaper, because this is something to be seen. This is we don't really understand the dynamics here. At least I don't, for sure. You have me still?
I'm having a real hard time with my internet connection. Max, right. Can I leave the rest of the broadcast to you?
Yes, for sure. I'm just not sure if I'm able to kill the live stream when we're done. But I think we're pretty much getting to the end of this show.
We're getting to the end.
Yeah. So OpenOms, do you have anything else to bring up and to chat about?
Well, if we can go on for a little more about why I was looking into and enthusiastic about implementing join market in the Raspberry Blitz, which is a very kind of family and friends focused node, and also there is the possibility of all on the edges of the network you can earn some sets, which is, as we discussed, it's not necessarily from being a big routing node, but also from join markets you can offer liquidity for coin joins for others to join with, and that can come with some fee income as well, which is again a non-custodial, algorithmically risk-free. Obviously, you have a hot wallet, now another hot wallet sitting on your little Linux server, so need to keep that safe, and your passwords and the other computers in the network safe. But again, it's something to be made while also gaining some privacy. So there is a privacy gain with payments on the Lightning Network, mostly on the sender side, but there is also a huge privacy gain with having your coins be a part of coin joins of others. Obviously, the biggest and best way of gaining privacy with join market is to be a taker, so to coordinate the coin join yourself, because then you are the only one who is aware of the UTXO set of the participants, including yourself. But if someone else is coin joining with you, then you expose that information that they will be aware that those UTXOs you have been offering or made a part of a coin join are together. So there is some privacy trade-off there, but you can earn a little fee there, which is again can be proportional to the amount offered. So it's just something which can now possible with Raspberry Blitz, and might help people on the peripheries in terms of the network, right?
Yeah, that's it. I love the integration that you did for the Raspberry Blitz. It really is phenomenal, man. Thank you very much for doing that. And as you say, right, for the taker is the coordinator. And the cool thing about Join Market is that it's decentralized in the sense that anyone can become a taker or a coordinator of the coin join. Right? This is contrarily to a zero-link setup like Wasabi or Samurai Whirlpool, where there's one central server who does the coordination. And this is a potential threat in the sense of censorship. Right? The server can be shut down, or he can deny one user the privilege of using his service. And the difference with zero link is that the coordinator cannot spy, right? So what you say with the taker, that he knows the input to output link for all the makers, that is not the case in a zero link setup. So the maker does not really gain privacy against the taker, the maker does gain privacy against the other makers, right? The makers cannot spy on each other, and also against an outside observer who is not the taker. And thus, if you are a maker in Join Market, then you can get still pretty good privacy by doing regular rounds of making, right? If you make, let's say, 10 rounds with 10 different takers, then although each one of them can spy on the individual transaction and on the individual round, if you have 10 of them, then it becomes quite difficult actually to follow through and see from the very first premix transaction to that final last CoinJoin transaction, which coins belong to the same maker. So, and the cool thing with Raspberry Pi is it's running all the time, right? So you can get like, I don't know, 0.1 Bitcoin or so onto this machine, and it just keeps mixing nonstop for days or weeks or months. And over that time period, you really do get quite a lot of privacy, even as a maker.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. Also, I mean, what is the best? The recommended way is to just simply alternate the maker and the taker rule. So, as you want to make every spend a CoinJoin, when you spend, you just become the maker, and you send your coins out of that wallet with a CoinJoin to, cap this kind of rounds of CoinJoins off, and be quite well obscured.
Yeah, exactly. That's another good strategy. OpenUm's a question here, especially now that we have Raspberry Pi, or sorry, the Join Market implementation on the Raspberry Blitz that also has a Lightning implementation. Have you maybe thought about doing a Join Market taking transaction that funds a Lightning Network channel?
Well, that's a fantastic idea. I mean, this kind of thing is slightly above my level, although I love to work on it. It's very promising because we have this PSBT format, which has been very successfully kind of introduced into the community by the Code Card, right? And now with LND 010, you can open a channel with a PSBT with just the LNCLI command line. So you don't even need to use the internal wallet. So you don't need to transfer the funds from an external wallet to the internal wallet of LND and open a channel there, like it was so far. But you can open from an external wallet directly with a PSBT, a properly configured PSBT. So that means that you would be able to open a transaction from a Join Market wallet, for example, or even from a cold storage wallet. What makes it complicated is when you open the channel, you need to communicate with the peer. So to make it at the same time a part of a CoinJoin as well is not exactly solved that, or it gives a couple of so in that case you wouldn't only need to coordinate with the other peers or the CoinJoin coordinator. You would also need to coordinate with the Lightning Network peer you are opening the channel with. So I mean, this is at the moment, I mean, certainly above what can be realistically done. But you can do have an UTXO sitting mixed already in your Join Market wallet, and theoretically you are already able to open a channel from there with another transaction.
Yeah, right. It's a coordination nightmare. But I still have this vision in my head that we have a 100 input CoinJoin transaction where it is in part a channel factory opening and in other part a hyperloop into and out of the CoinJoin with a coin swap, and maybe also a couple pay joins thrown in there, and then we can fuck chain analysis goodbye. That's going to be pretty much it.
Yes, I'm not sure if there are actual developments are needed on like the Bitcoin base layer to achieve this, but I certainly know that we are not the only ones speaking about this.
Oh yeah, for sure. And this is one of the things that we're researching at Wasabi with the new CoinJoin protocol, the ability to make a payment inside the CoinJoin itself. And although, of course, the biggest issue is the coordination nightmare here, but still, it's something that we keep in mind with a potential use case that would be mind-blowingly awesome in the future. Still a lot of work to do, so it's very much fantasy right now. But I can see a vision here, and hopefully we can execute on it.
I think you were. I think I was looking at that once that you were proposing to. I mean, it was proposed in the Wasabi GitHub repo that you'd use a change to fulfill a payment. Is that right? To do a change to go to an external predefined address, right?
Well, we already have this right now on the released version to do a coin join into an extended public key. So this can be a hardware wallet or your Lightning wallet or even your join market wallet, right? So you do a Wasabi Zero link that goes directly into your join market wallet where you then do market making, and then it goes back to Wasabi for another round or whatever you want to do. So that is already implemented, but it's only for the equal amount, 0.1,
Yeah.
0.2, 0.4 denominations, right? So that's not really good enough for payments because very rarely is the payment amount arbitrary. Very often it is a specific denomination that you need to choose. So this is something that we want to solve with Wabi-Sabi, to have a specific amounts to a specific address inside a huge coin join that batches different spending transactions and self-mixing transactions, all in one block space efficient privacy awesomeness, but still work in progress.
Okay, very interesting.
And maybe one final thing. It just came up of PayJoin that is now implemented in, well, it used to be implemented in Join Market back in Waxwing's early proof of concept. Then in the meantime, BTC Pay Server updated the BIP 79, and now Wasabi has it implemented. Blue Wallet is working on implementation. Blockstream store is running it, and as far as I know, Join Market is also tinkering on updating their initial proof of concept implementation to be with this BIP 79/BTC Pay version compatible. OpenArms, do you know a bit more about what is going here on the Join Market side?
Well, I certainly know that. I mean, they have the PayJoin, their implementation of PayJoin, which you can use from Join Market Wallet to Join Market Wallet through the command line already, and that's been there for years. But there is an active PR pending. I think only one, which does sort this out. It's Christoph SKYPE, who is a regular contributor, started this, on the day when the BTC PayJoin implementation was announced. So it is in the works, and I mean, I don't see a reason why it wouldn't come to the next version of Join Market.
Yeah, that is very much fantastic, because then, of course, now with Join Market being in the Raspberry Blitz, all of a sudden every Raspberry Blitz user can receive and send PayJoins, which is quite fantastic.
Well, we have BTC Pay Server in there already, so we can receive and send PayJoins, actually, right?
Oh yeah, that's right. You already can do that with BTC Pay. All right. Still, it's an awesome addition.
Yes, but it's better to not to have another hot wallet, because that's a hurdle that for BTC Pay Server to be able to do that, you would need to use a hot wallet with BTC Pay Server, which would be the third hot wallet running on the Raspberry Pi, and it's just, we are focusing on security as much as possible, and like privacy. I would say the first priority is security, and then we do our best for privacy. But then, I'm using these myself, so want to be comfortable with using these services. So that's the kind of a standard, right? But every hot wallet has other risks. I just cannot emphasize that enough.
Yeah, that's a very good point, and it would be quite cool if all of these different software pieces can talk to the same wallet, the same hot wallet, and just manage this all with just one set of private keys. I mean, that will be very modular and awesome in design, but of course a huge rework. So not even sure if it's worth it. But yeah.
Well, or I mean, you can obviously you need to fund. I mean, now you can fund your L&D from a code wallet. I mean, there is some work done on certainly the code cut side, which would make it possible to maybe coin join from a code wallet, right? From separated from core storage. I mean, and then obviously you should be able to do pay joins from core storage as well, and only exposing that kind of small, the amount you are actually using, and not the whole wallet maybe. But I mean, this is a lot to develop, and it's very exciting, and I'm sure they will come, but we need to see where we are at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. It's not going to be boring. We still have a bunch of work to do. So join us. There's a lot of awesome stuff to be built. OpenOms, do you have anything else to bring up?
Keep building. I think just keep an eye on the project and get involved if you have anything to add, for sure. So thanks.
Very, very cool. I'm sorry, I'm having problems with my bandwidth, so I can't really chime in too much. But yeah, I've always loved the idea of coin mixing on Lightning as well, even though it's because the transactions are so cheap. They keep throwing them in pools and back out, and making it very difficult for anyone to determine anything. We have a question here for anyone that wants to chime in from on the World Crypto Network chat from Lalo Landa. I've read about an alternative to HTLC that I can't remember, but in theory, how painful could upgrades be compared to Bitcoin upgrades? Does the network need the same consensus that Bitcoin network does?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and I think the update she's talking about, or the different proposal, is instead of hashed time-locked contracts, to have point time-locked contracts, PTLCs. And the idea here is to not so a HTLC is you have a secret, which is the hash pre-image, and then you commit to the secret by hashing it, and then you have a unique fingerprint. And then you publish this commitment, and eventually you reveal the secret, and then something happens. Basically, the route gets confirmed or done. The difference with point time lock contracts, it is not in a general idea, that is the same, but in what technology is used. So you have a secret, which is basically a scalar point or private key, and then you commit to the secret by doing, instead of hashing, elliptic curve cryptography and producing a public key, which is still a commitment to that secret. And now you publish that commitment, and you build a route with this commitment, and eventually the secret gets revealed, and then the route completes. So fundamentally, it's the same thing, but the cool thing is by using elliptic curve cryptography instead of hashes and pre-images, is that you can do advanced crypto magic on these commitments. So instead of a hash just being bumble text like crypto stuff, you have a elliptic curve point, and this can be used to do, for example, additive cryptography, or some stuff like adapter signatures. So there's a bunch of awesome, also privacy awesome tech that can be built with this. Now, we could use this technology already today in Bitcoin by just upgrading the Lightning Network and by running a Lightning Network node that doesn't really have to be in consensus, as long as it finds nodes along the route that support this new standard. So theoretically, this would be very much more easy to upgrade, because we don't need to have 100% consensus. We just need to have consensus for the nodes that coordinate this one payment. The issue, though, is that the current elliptic curve digital signature algorithm that Bitcoin uses on the base layer is a bit tricky to use with these elliptic curve cryptography and PTLCs. It is possible It's just that it's more difficult to implement, and that there frankly is not yet a good implementation, neither coded up nor well reviewed. The proposal here is doing this instead with ECDSA with Schnorr signatures. And this makes it a lot more easy, a lot more well reviewed already with working code implementations. And now the main hurdle is that we need to wait for the Bitcoin protocol, the base layer protocol, to do the consensus upgrade for Taproot, right, which implements the Schnorr signature scheme and which makes all this advanced crypto magic possible. So now, although the Lightning Network could upgrade more swiftly, it is somewhat hindered by being locked on the base layer that is not yet upgraded to Taproot. So this is one of the many, many, many reasons why Taproot is one of the most crucial and most important upgrades to the Bitcoin consensus protocol, and why we need to do everything that we can to review the implementation and the concept itself to make sure that it is a secure and proper upgrade, because it just has so much powerful potential and many, many more technologies, much more than just the Bitcoin base layer, can benefit from Taproot.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is something that everybody asks for. When not apart from when Moon, it's when Taproot, when Schnorr. That's constantly when Schnorr, and you know, just simple things like making it cheaper for multisig in terms of block space is just a huge benefit. So all around a huge benefit. Is there what's the latest there? Are we close?
Yeah, so the BIPs were very thoroughly reviewed by the end of 2019 in Anthony Town's review club with like 160 participants at start. That was very successful, I would say. And then they were proposed and are currently in a draft status still, but now have BIP numbers. And there have been still rather many concept changes or like some minor tweaks rather to the Taproot BIPs itself. And now there's also a working code implementation in C++ by Peter Woolley that is currently done to the Bitcoin repository. Now, this is one of the largest pull requests, if not the largest pull request that has ever been made to the Bitcoin repository. Just by lines of code, it's huge. And it is very, very difficult to review just because it isn't that large. But the good thing is that there's pretty much daily review going on, and there are always comments being done to that repo or to that pull request specifically, and it's quite large by now. So ongoing review, the code works, but of course working code doesn't mean it's good code, and hopefully the conceptual point is pretty solid by now, and we can focus on the code implementation. It's still quite a lot off, right? And even if we have the code reviewed and implemented and merged and even released, this doesn't mean that people are running this version of the software, let alone that, for example, miners are signaling for activation. So we're even further off from reaching consensus itself. So it's going to be another 2 weeks, I'm afraid.
2 weeks, TM. Yeah. Well, it's very exciting, and I know that many people are looking forward to that. Max, thank you very much. Have we got any more people on that want to put their hand up to want to say anything before we?
I see Rootsol, OpenOhms, and Oleg again in the chat. Anything that you would like to bring up? Maybe Rootsol to sum it up, the hack sprint day 1.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just too lazy to start a switch to the live stream and just kept on listening here. So, yeah, but just to sum it up, the first day. So I think very nice start. Yeah, so we see some projects got together. Of course, at some projects still kind of maybe some people didn't click together or something, but that's expected. So yeah, so I think it's thank you very much for this live stream. I think it was a very good way to get in a bigger overview and go into kind of side topics beside the kickoff and the very specialized sessions that were going on. And yeah, looking forward to see you tomorrow. So do you know will we do tomorrow? Do also kind of a live stream, or is it a Saturday exclusive here?
No, I think Jeff will force us and whip us into making the next live stream too.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I think what we're aiming for is again at around about 5:30 or 5 o'clock.
Yeah,
jump
that's
on.
perfect. It sounds nice. I think we have at 3 tomorrow.
Oops, there's my baby.
Well, no problem. At 3
Home
tomorrow.
office.
There is the roundtable about Lightning Labs technologies. Yeah, I think to have after this a live stream, so kind of pushing us through till the end about 8 p.m. I want to do the tomorrow. I want to do the wrap up. So having something in between there, I think a live stream format would be awesome. So if you can do this again, would be very, very appreciated. But also really just feel free to hang out in the chat rooms and also find some little challenges at least to look into for you. So, and again, for everybody's listening, joined in late or just watched on the YouTube. So it's still a night and tomorrow a whole day. So everybody who likes to still jump in and check out the challenges, check out the wiki.fulmo.org. There you should find every information you need. Also, the kickoff was recorded, and you can rewatch it there, and still jump into the chats here and connect with people and hack out a bit. So again, the hack sprint is not the hackathon that really has to finish kind of on a line. So tomorrow, it's more like really to push projects a little step forward, and maybe even to get you set up so that you can use the next upcoming weeks to continue developing stuff, and then maybe just present it on the next hack sprint, your progress. So this is the kind of idea, a little bit more relaxed than a kind of hard timed hackathon. It's a sprint. So, and we need a lot of sprints to do the marathon. So that's I think we did a good kind of distance today and tomorrow. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, I think this is just yet another of the awesome Fulmo projects that so many people contribute to. Rutzol, you of course being a centerpiece to it. It's fantastic. It really is. We still have so much stuff to build, and it's not lacking on ideas, right? It's rather lacking on the execution and the brain power to get it done. And these hack sprints or hackathons in general are just so powerful to get the right people together, to get them at the same time, at the same place, well, either in Meatspace or in cyberspace, and then to build. This is very, very powerful, and also a great way for...
Yeah, you never know. It's still...
Live streaming is on.
Ooh.
Oh, we're back.
And we're back.
We're back. Yeah, no, thank you very much for wrapping that up, Rutzol. It's like Max said, you are a centerpiece in this whole space. You know, we don't like centerpieces in a decentralized network, but you know, your projects can't help but be.
I know I'm replaceable. That's no problem.
Excellent.
But
yeah.
Wait, Rutzol, you're still not replaceable. I still want damn Doge Rain on Lightning Network. And until you do that, you're not allowed to quit.
Absolutely.
Okay, will do.
Absolutely. That would be absolutely sensational. Max, it's been wonderful to see you again, well, I didn't actually see you because you're in the mountains far away. But thank you very much, and for this live stream. I'm very much looking forward to tomorrow. Guys, if you want to keep up with what I'm doing and my crazy rantings on Twitter, it's J Shigala, that's JSCIGALA. And also check out Vaultoro if you want to trade between Bitcoin and physical bullion. Max, do you have any last parting words?
Well, just to repeat that, Vaultoro is damn awesome. Well, especially during Bitcoin bull markets, it's great to have gold as a hedge. Now, when we're in a Bitcoin bear market, I might even rather stack some Bitcoin. But of course, if you have gold, it's a great option to get rid of the gold bags and stack some cyberspace precious metal.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been happening a lot. A lot of people are, you know, it's really interesting watching what people, because precious metals people, I find they're very educated in terms of macroeconomic theory and such. So, which a lot of Bitcoiners, the newer ones aren't really. They're just in for the speculation. Yeah, moon. But if you look at the that side of stuff, it's very interesting seeing what trades people make. And watching our exchange is really interesting. But yeah, thanks, Max.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a great project, and also one of the first exchanges to integrate Lightning. So always on the cutting edge. Yeah. But to find me on Twitter at HildebrandMax, and GitHub at Max Hildebrand. Mainly doing Wasabi stuff, so help out. If you fix typos in the documentation, I'll throw you a couple sats. They are meticulously coin-joined, so you will not find out how much money I have. I'm sorry. But yeah, basically keep on building. We have a lot of work to do. Of course, Lightning Network is one of the forefronts of Bitcoin development, but there's so much more to the space. So you will definitely find a niche project that very much values your contribution and needs it. So don't be lurping, be active, and build awesome stuff. And I'm glad to be back here at the WCN. It's been quite fun. 3-hour live stream. That's the length that I like. Anyone can talk for 10 minutes. That's boring. But we really want to get into the nitty and gritty. And that just deserves the long-term format. So absolutely lovely. Of course, we'll be back tomorrow for more Lightning Hack Sprint experience here. Thanks to the great organizers at FOMO. That's Jeff, that Rootsall. I think Kendall is also doing some stuff. And whoever set up the great self-hosted Jitsi server and the self-hosted Mattermost server, because here at FOMO, we don't really believe in closed source custodial stuff. We host our own tools, and that is the way it should be. So thank you very much for joining us here on the World Crypto Network for this coverage, and see you on the next show. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.